The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, how are we feeling? 2024 NFL Draft in the rearview mirror. The Washington Commanders 2024 draft class is complete. 9 players went into the draft with 9 picks, came out of the draft with 9 picks, came out of the draft with a first, 3 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fifths, and a 7th round selection. How are we feeling about the haul Washington came away with? First and foremost, cheers to everyone who endured this entire process. It was an arduous one, okay? Very tedious, very time-consuming if you allowed it to be, filled with ups and downs, twists and turns, lots of drama, things that we didn't really want to have come our way after dealing what we've dealt with over the last 25 years. We wanted a stress-free process, but that's not what happens when you're drafting second overall and you're picking between 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks. It's going to be a lot of back and forth and scuttlebutt and things in the media, but you made it to the finish line successfully. We got our guy, and now the draft is complete. And I say, job well done, right? Cheers to the process. Cheers to it being done. Cheers to the first draft class, hopefully, of many to come. Successful ones, I may add, of Lance Newmark, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, and company. So, where do we begin? I think we should start with today's activity. And then I think we'll go back and kind of look at everything in totality, because we've already talked about the first 2 days, but we'll talk about every single pick, because, you know, the beauty of this particular draft class, I've already done the work on just about every single prospect. Normally, I only have a working knowledge. I've got to go back and watch film and kind of get familiar with that particular player. 3 or 4 guys in the draft, right? We draft 9 players. I've only watched 4 or 5 of them. I've got 4, more guys to kind of study and figure out what they bring to the table. Not this year. I've already watched every single one of the guys, and I went back and did my Brandon Coleman homework, because I was a little bit skeptical yesterday, and rightfully so. In my defense, the 2 games that I watched, he primarily played guard. And, in college, it's nothing to see a guy bouncing from tackle to guard. But most of his snaps came at guard. So, naturally, I viewed him as a guard. I went back and I sought out tackle tape. I'll talk about my findings here in a bit, but let's talk about day 3 for the Commanders. No 4th round pick, which was a little bit frustrating, but I was willing to deal with that. When you have 3 seconds and 2 thirds, I'm willing to put up with no 4th, right? So we went through the 4th round, and, I love how the draft fell, because it gave me clarity. I can sleep well tonight knowing that Austin Booker was on the board at the time of our very first 5th round pick, and they made a decision, and they told me to my face, we like Jordan McGee better than we like Austin Booker. Okay. I can live with that. I can sleep well at night. When my head hits the pillow tonight, I'm not going to be thinking, damn, I wonder if they would have taken Austin Booker if he was available. I don't have to think that now. I know. They said to themselves, we'd rather go with the combination of Jordan McGee and Javonte Jean-Baptiste than, or Javonte John-Baptiste, or I think it's Javonte Jean-Baptiste, versus Austin Booker and, say, Tyrese Knight. We like that combination better of Jordan McGee and getting the guy in the 7th round versus getting the edge rusher in the 5th and potentially having to wait to get your linebacker in the 7th. Okay. Noted. So I got no issues, right? They made their decision. So the first guy they selected in day 3 was Jordan McGee, the linebacker out of Temple. And before I pat myself on the back, because I love nothing more than to break my own arm patting myself on the back, I got to first tell you I was wrong, right? So yesterday on the show last night, I told you that if Tyrese Knight got to Washington in the 5th round, they'd take him. They didn't. They took Jordan McGee. So I was flat out wrong about that. I thought that Tyrese Knight was their guy. But what's funny is I'd done the homework and I did my mock draft, and I put out a video earlier today with some of the picks from my mock draft. And look, I'm almost to the point now where my mock draft is must-see TV. I only put out one. I'm not one of these people that put out 97 mock drafts prior to the draft. I only put out one mock draft for the Commanders, right? One without trades, one with trades. So 2 technically speaking, but normally the one with trades is the one you want to be dialed into because drafts don't happen without trades, okay? Drafts always happen with trades. You don't have them in a vacuum with nothing, with no other what's the word I'm looking for here? Variables at play, right? There are always going to be other factors and variables at play. And so trades are definitely going to come into the equation. So in that mock draft, I had us taking Jaden Daniels. I had us taking Johnny Newton. I had us taking Jordan McGee. And I had us taking safety Dominique Hampton. So McGee, I had already done the work, right? Because I had him in the mock draft and I wanted, again, I put a lot of work into my mock drafts. I don't just, willy-nilly go out, pick a random name. I don't just willy-nilly say, okay, let's see what's available. I literally go into these mock drafts thinking, if I were them, if this is the type of player I'm looking for, what would I be looking for, right? So again, that's how my brain works. Like I'm a why guy, right? Why do these things happen? Why does this decision get made? So when you think that way, when you critically think that way, you try to get into into other people's brains and think how they think. And Jordan McGee, and I told you, in the mock draft that during the combine, this is what kind of piqued my interest in him to begin with, to even have him on the radar to put him in the mock draft, was Daniel Jeremiah. Said during the combine when he was running his 40, he said, hey man, Rich, I really like this guy, Jordan McGee. And he said, I went around the league looking for support in my defense of Jordan McGee. I went looking for someone to verify that I wasn't crazy, that his tape was really good. And he said, I couldn't find any support. He said, but I'm going to stand on my belief. I know what I saw, and I saw a guy that was aggressive, that could blitz, get after the quarterback, had enough speed and athleticism to play sideline to sideline. He's a guy that could find the football, and he was instinctive. He said, and I liked him. He plays with some juice. He plays with an edge. I said, again, I heard blitz. I heard juice, and then I watched his 40. It was a 4.55. And I with a 1.5, 1.55, something like that, 10-second split. And I'm like, okay, that's explosive and that's fast. So, you look at the numbers, you see over the last 2 seasons, this guy's had, 8 sacks, 23 tackles for loss. And you go, okay, all right, we working with something here. So you turn on the tape and you see exactly what Daniel Jeremiah described, right? A guy that can, run sideline to sideline, is very instinctual, has the ability to blitz and get to the quarterback. There's this ridiculous amount of closing speed where you see him, and at a time when he gets that straight line path to the quarterback, he's a blur, right? There's a lot to like with Jordan McGee, okay? So he was the first pick. You go to our second fifth rounder, you had 2. And this is the guy at that exact pick, 153. I had Washington taking Dominique Hampton, safety out of Washington. So I absolutely nailed that one. I had them taking Jordan McGee in the 7th, but it doesn't matter where they go. I got the player right. That's all that anybody cares about at the end of the day. But Hampton, I nailed that one like to a T. And he's a guy that I told you in the mock draft, complete and utter clone of the Carolina safety that we signed in free agency, Jeremy Chinn. Complete and utter clone. Like if we were putting him in a machine and we were cloning him and getting a duplicate, a doppelganger, it spit out Dominique Hampton. 6'2", 215, runs a 4.5, 140, and then some reports at his pro day, he ran again and ran a sub 4.5, ran a 4.45, which is exactly what Jeremy Chinn ran at the combine, a 4.45 when he came out, right? So if that's true, that's crazy. But when you look at it from a size standpoint, when you look at it from a play standpoint, he is Jeremy Chinn. You can do so much with him, but his best football is played down around the line of scrimmage. And with that speed and athleticism, he can take tight ends uptown. If they want to go take them up the seam, if they want to try to run the corner route, he can run with them, stay in phase, and make a play on the football. But his best work is down around the line of scrimmage as a physical enforcer. He comes down, and he comes down with violent intentions. What did they say we're going to do this year? We're going to arrive what? Violently, okay? This guy arrives violently. Part of the reason why I was intrigued by him, part of the reason why I looked at him and put him in my mock draft is because he is physical. Let's get physical. And what I like about him is much like the rest of these guys that they drafted, and I watched Adam Peters's presser last night. He talked about all of these guys that they had drafted in day 2 being captains, right? Dominique Hampton, another captain. Dude spent 6 years. He was one of these COVID babies. Spent 6 years. I talked about that in the mock draft at UW. And he's not one of these dudes that transferred and went to 3 different schools. He stuck it out at UW, played his entire career there, and was obviously when you spend 6 years at the same university, you're well respected, okay? You have a residence there. You live there. You're a part of the community now, right? When you spend 6 years at a school, right? So needless to say, he was a leader. He led by example. He led, from a vocal standpoint. His play, got it done. And he was a guy that made things happen for that UW program and helped them get to the national championship game. And when you watch him, again, he can fly around the 4.4, 5 or the 4.51 speaks to that. He's physical. Like I told you already, doesn't always take the best pursuit angles, right? He can get a little sloppy with the handles. I felt the exact same way when Derek Forrest was coming out. I remember when he was coming out of Cincinnati, I think Derek Forrest ran like a 4.39, something crazy like that, right? And, but he was always playing from up top. So he was more of a high safety type of guy, more so special teams than anything else. But when he was playing on the field defensively, he was in that, one single high safety look, and he would come down, and it wouldn't always be the cleanest, angles that he would take. He's gotten so much better at that as Derek Forrest. But, back to Dominique Hampton, similar type of profile, man. Comes down, hits you. Forrest would hit you. Same thing with Dominique Hampton. He's good at reading, blocking schemes, hitting the gap, getting into the backfield, making a play. Solid tackler, gets guys on the ground. I think there's a lot of redeeming qualities with, Dominique Hampton. And again, I told you about this in the mock draft. When you have a guy that you signed to a 1-year deal that you think has a chance to be a really good player in your scheme, you run the risk of losing that guy the following year, depending on how you value that player, right? If Jeremy Chin, remember, he had a meteoric rise to the start of his career, and people thought, man, the Panthers knocked it out of the park with this kid, right? He was the runner-up, if you recall, in the Rookie of the Year campaign with Chase Young in 2020. He was the Rookie of the Year runner-up. Like, he came, burst onto the scene, he was killing it. And then injuries and, he kind of plateaued, and they changed defensive coordinators, and then it was all this turnover, and he fell out of favor with Ejiro Evero, and next thing you know, he wasn't really on the field, and he became a guy that was a forgotten man, and he's looking for redemption. He's looking to put himself back on the map, and he's looking for a payday. So he comes to Washington, to a team in a scheme that he thinks he's going to fit very well in, and if he blows up, if he gets back to his rookie or sophomore season form, somebody might pay him big money next year, and it might not be us. So Dominique Hampton puts you in a position that if he chooses to test the market next year, coming off of a fantastic year in Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn's defense, you got a replacement in-house already who's already learned the scheme, so you don't have to go through a transitional period of, damn, we got to teach somebody else the scheme and hope they come in here and fit in hand in glove. Because by the time we get to next year, with the way they've set things up, we're ready to win next year, right? Like, I know a lot of you think they're going to win this year, and they may. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're not, but the likelihood is everybody's got to figure out where they fit in to what it is we're doing, and kind of, get acclimated to what is going to be asked of them moving forward and what this program is going to be all about. And next year, there's going to be an expectation set. The foundation would have been set. You've already got a draft class under your belt. The guys that you've identified as core players will already be identified, and now we can hit the ground running. And you don't have to teach somebody else that position, because that's going to be a big position for them. That guy down inside the box. Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. want guys that are athletic on the field. They don't want a bunch of big plodding guys on the field. Quinn has always been one to trade size for speed. And so you're getting the best of both worlds in Washington, because you got a Daron Payne, you got a Jonathan Allen, you have a Johnny Newton now, right? So you have some size. And you got a Bobby Wagner, who's a big physical linebacker. So you have some size, right? Frankie Luvu is not a small guy. You have some size. But you're going to have a Jeremy Chin down there, who's not the biggest guy in the world. And Dominique Hampton is not the biggest guy in the world. Mikey Sainristil is not the biggest guy in the world. But you want to have those guys be in tune to what's going on. And that's why I think a pick like Dominique Hampton makes so much sense, which is why I mocked him to us. And there you have it, right? So he was the other 5th round pick. And then you get to the 7th round, and they took a guy that I told you they had leveled off each, portion of the draft at edge rusher. And I talked about this at least 3 or 4 times during the process, right? I said, they've set themselves up to where if Chop Robinson's available, that's a guy they take at 34 or 36 rather, right? If he's available, that's a fringe first rounder that slips somehow to the 2nd round, and they're going to take him. That's the 1st round guy, right? Then they had another pocket. It was like, I call it the 2nd wave of edge rushers. And that was Marshawn Nealon and Austin Booker, right? And to me, if you wanted Booker, you needed the 4th round pick. Well, it turns out we didn't need the 4th round pick to get him, right? He was there in the 5th round. And they chose to go with Jordan McGee instead. And the Bears took Austin Booker maybe 4 or 5 picks later. But that next group, right, of edge rushers was Marshawn Nealon, Jalix Hunt, and Austin Booker. And they were all in that little conglomerate of the 3rd to the 5th round, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. And they passed on that, right? Clearly, they passed on that. Nealon was gone before they got an opportunity to take him. Dallas took him in the 2nd round, so he was gone by the time the 3rd round came around, which is where they probably value, which is where I valued him at. Jalix Hunt, the Eagles took him, right? And so he was gone, and I don't think they were going to take him anyway, but he was gone already. The Eagles had already taken him, but I think in the 3rd round. And then Booker, they passed on him. in the 5th round. They had a chance, and they said, we're good. We're going to take McGee. We value Jordan McGee more than we do Austin Booker. Okay, fine. So then there was one more wave. That final wave of edge rushers was Javonte Jean-Baptiste, right? And he was a 7th round pick type of guy, 6th, 7th round. That's what I felt like he was. So it was 3 waves, and I said they got pockets. Same thing with tackles. They had pockets that they brought in of tackles, right? So they had the guys that they thought could be 1st round tackles that they met with. They had the guys that they thought were somewhere in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th round range that they met with. And then they had the guys like Kieran Omegadeji, to me, right? And some of the other guys that they had that were a little bit later on, that they felt like if, we don't have it, some of the other guys that we really truly like aren't available, we can fall back and get another tackle, right? So they chose Javonte Jean-Baptiste in the 7th round, and I talked about that. I said if they don't get a edge rusher in the first 5 rounds, because remember we didn't have a 4th or 6th round pick, so if they don't get an edge rusher by the 5th round, Jean-Baptiste is probably going to be their pick, and he turned out to be their pick. So there were no surprises, right? There were no if you were locked in, if you followed me throughout this process, you were pretty much in tune to what was going on. You were locked in because we talked about a lot of these things. As a Notre Dame fan, I can tell you, we got him for 1 year. He was at Ohio State for the first 4 years of his career, went to Notre Dame last year, did some good things, had 5 sacks for Notre Dame. He's more of a hustle, try hard guy, has some athleticism. He's only 237 pounds though. So he's not a big guy. So he's going to have to get stronger, which is why you take him in the 7th round. He's what you call a developmental prospect, right? They didn't draft, again, remember, Adam Peters talked about that runway that you have for certain positions because you have guys already here. You don't need guys to necessarily contribute in their rookie seasons, and you see that growth and that leap in year 2, which is what we're hoping to get from a guy like Braden Daniels, right? That 2nd year leap, he was not ready. Unfortunately for him, there was no runway, right? We didn't have a bunch of guys in front of him that, should have kept him off the field. Had he been good enough, he could have started last year. It was not a good tackle situation for us, but he wasn't ready. He didn't even make the team, a phantom injury. And he probably did have like some little nick that he could have recovered from in a week or 2, but they put him on IR so they didn't have to cut him, right? Let's hope that he has grown and he's gotten stronger and more physical and he's adapted and adjusted to the NFL game. And that's what they're going to probably do is redshirt Javonte Jean-Baptiste. I don't expect him to make this football team. We got 1,000 edge rushers now, right? And so I expect him to be on the practice squad. I expect him to continue to get stronger. They develop. They're hoping he probably is roughly 250 pounds next year, somewhere in that neighborhood. And he's ready to then contribute when Cleveland Farrell is no longer here, and Dante Fowler Jr. may no longer be here, and F.A. Obata may no longer be here. And it's just, Dorrance Armstrong and, KJ Henry maybe, and then you draft another guy next year, or you sign somebody in free agency next year, and then you hope Javonte Jean-Baptiste is ready to contribute, right? So that's kind of how I see that pick, one of those draft and stash type of selections, and you see what happens down the road. He may not, turn into anything. He may turn into a solid contributor like James Smith-Williams did for us, right? Solid contributor. That's what you ask a 7th round pick to be, a guy that comes in when his number is called, he gives you what you need, and then he goes about his business. And, that's what a 7th round pick is supposed to provide. You're hoping at least they provide. And that may be what Javonte Jean-Baptiste provides for us, but he's not ready to hold the point of attack. Surprisingly, he's slippery enough to make something happen, but he's not, to me, Austin Booker in the sense that he could stand up being undersized at the point of attack, but he's slippery. He'll knife into the backfield. He'll initially take on a block and then slip it and get into the backfield. But if he's taking on a block, he's going to get uprooted and moved out of the hole because he's just not big enough and strong enough to hold up at the point of attack. He's laid off the ball when he rushes. So any advantage that he may have with quickness and speed is negated by the fact that he's allowing that tackle to get out of his stance, get a full kick step in before he even gets out of his stance to rush. It's almost like he doesn't see the ball being snapped or something. So, yeah, he's got work to do, right? But this is what coaching is all about. We'll see what he manifests himself into down the road. But outside of him, I expect every single one of these draft picks to make the team. So you're talking 8 out of the 9 guys. I expect them to make the team. All right. So that means, because we got a ton of safeties, that means somebody could be on the outside looking in. Somebody could be out back. Okay. Jeremy Reeves is going to be on this football team. Okay. Quan Martin's going to be on this football team. You'd like to think Percival Butler is going to be on this team. Derek Forrest should be, but he's on the last year of his contract. So I don't know. We'll see, right? But they could keep 5 safeties, 5 corners, and go with 10 defensive backs. Not out of the realm of possibility. I feel like we're at the point with this roster right now where you shouldn't be making any tough decisions on cuts. It should be enough space for everyone. We don't have that much talent. After they purge this roster, you shouldn't be like mulling over, oh my God, we got to cut this guy. Hopefully we can sneak him onto the practice. We shouldn't be doing that yet because we're not talented enough to be doing that. You know, you might cut a guy or two. You're like, man, I wish we didn't have to cut him. And then somebody else signs him, but it's not to that point yet, I don't think, at least. But we'll see. You know, I can say that now. We get to camp and then we see some guys playing well, or we see some players kind of, you know, maturing right before our very eyes. And we're like, hey, I don't know what they're going to do, but I wouldn't cut that guy. And then, you know, we'll see, right? But at the end of the day, this draft class, as we look at the totality of this draft class now, picks 1 through 9. Start with Jaden Daniels. We already know what this guy is and what we project him to be. I found it interesting that they didn't have him. You remember Emmanuel Forbes was at the little draft party last year. You know, the day after he got drafted, he came down that next day, that I want to say that Friday. It was a part of the draft party festivities. This group decided we don't want to put that on him. You know, like, he's already viewed as the savior of this franchise, and they didn't want to put that on him right away. Like, I get it. You know, I totally understand that, man, that's a heavy crown to wear, and your neck and your head better be strong, because we've been starving for a franchise quarterback for 40 years. 40 years. We haven't had a true franchise signal caller since 1985, going all the way back to Joe Theismann. We've had guys come in for a 2 or 3 year stretch and play really well for this organization, i.e. Brad Johnson, or, you know, Gus Frerotte had a little, you know, spell there. Robert Griffin III had a year. Jason Campbell had a couple of years where we thought he could be something. Obviously, Kirk Cousins had the longest stretch and was probably the most consistent thing we've had at the quarterback position outside of, you know, since Joe Theismann, right? Mark Rippon obviously won a Super Bowl and he had a little run, but he was as inconsistent as it got, except for the 1 year we won the Super Bowl, right? So it really hasn't been something you can hang your hat on, and he's projected to be the guy. They didn't want to put that on him right away, and I get it, right? So we already know what the expectations are going to be. I think that's part of the reason why having a guy like Marcus Mariota here is instrumental, because Mariota can speak to what it's like to come into a situation and be viewed as the savior, as the number 2 overall pick, coming off of a Heisman Trophy winning campaign. He knows what that's like. Few guys can say, I was the number 2 overall pick. I won the Heisman Trophy the year that I came out, and I knew what I was walking into, and I had to deal with the expectations and the burden of being the guy. Few guys can share in that experience. We have one of those guys currently on the roster at the quarterback position that can kind of help navigate some of those pitfalls that come with being the guy for Jaden Daniels. So we know what the talent is. We've heard nothing but good things about what's inside of his head, you know, the mental aspect, what kind of a person he is and character he has. That's been one of the themes of this process with Washington, it seems like, is they drafted a bunch of high character guys who can play football. You know, we once used to joke around about having a bunch of Boy Scouts here, you know, guys that were really good guys off the field, but weren't all that great on the field. And then somewhere along the way, like, well, we started out as not drafting guys like that. Fred Davis was a weed smoker. And that doesn't make you a bad dude. It just means you smoke weed, right? But at that time, smoking weed and playing in the NFL was illegal, right? We had Fred Davis. Trent Williams was a weed head. He got suspended multiple times. Obviously, we had Darius Geis. Sua Cravens was a nut case and a head case and a nut job. And so we had all kinds of guys coming through here that just were not exemplary guys and players that you want to say, hey, this is what it's supposed to look like. And it kind of started with that 19 draft with Terry and some of those guys that we're going to turn this thing around and start bringing in guys that have high character, that look like and are what we, you know, want this organization to be reflected as, you know, in terms of the players. It maybe started with Jonathan Allen, but after that, they still took guys like Darius Geis and Sua Cravens. So at the end of the day, I think that 19 draft was the beginning of kind of turning things around. But even then, we were still taking guys that were like Boy Scouts. And it's funny because we joked about Jamin Davis getting taken in the first round because he was military, right? He had a military background. And he was supposed to be this good kid, clean, wholesome kid off the field. And then he's speed racer, right? So they couldn't even get that shit right with the last organization, but or last regime. But this group, they're clearly trying to set the standard for what it means to be a commander. And you got to be a guy that is accountable and a guy that's a leader and shows leadership qualities off the field. And character-wise, you've got to be a great guy, good teammate, all that good stuff. But you got to be able to play, man. Like, that's the thing. They got dogs. You know, and that we haven't been able to say that, right? Like, we got dogs, you know. So to me, it started with Jaden Daniels. He's a dog, right? And then it went to the second round with Johnny Newton. Jerzan, right? Jerzan Newton, but we just call him Johnny, man, right? You know what's funny is I've seen people upset about taking a defensive tackle when we needed offensive tackle. And those are the people that I don't think actually get it. And again, I'm never, ever going to tell somebody how to think. You know, if you want to think inside the box and you want to stay in your nice little neat cube and you want to think about things from a nice, neat, perfect perspective of, hey, we're in this vacuum. This is what we need. Go get what we need and leave it there, right? Cool. I can't tell you how to think. But if that's how you think, then you can't be one of these, we need to take best player available people. You can't say both of those things because you can't do both of those things at the same time. You can't hunt a need and say, we're going after best player available. Sometimes those two things fit together. But when you say best player available, that means irregardless of position. And sometimes there are exceptions to the rule. If I have Josh Allen or I got Joe Burrow or I got Lamar Jackson at quarterback, I'm not including best player doesn't include quarterback. I don't need another guy like that, right? But outside of that, you know, and if you got two really good tackles and an excellent swing tackle, probably not including tackle either, right? And they're all young. You know, none of them are, you know, kind of fading out of the prime of their career and going into the twilight of their career. Probably not looking at tackle either, right? But outside of that, you can never go wrong just taking the best player available because that's how you get better as a team. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And if you just take best player available, you're raising the floor, right? Every time you do that, just think about it in this term, right? In these terms, every time you take the best player available, you're raising the floor of your football team, of your organization, of your roster. Every time you take a player that is among the best at his position in the draft, you're raising the floor of, think about your grade in school, right? Every time you get an A, you're raising the overall average of your grade, right? Every time you kill a quiz or you ace a test, you're moving your grade up. Every time you take an elite player, you're moving the level of your roster up. Every time you settle for a position of need, you're either staying stagnant or you're watching your level of roster strength decrease, right? So you got to decide what's more important to you. If we were the Detroit Lions, this close from making it to the Super Bowl, you damn right you go hunt a need at that point. Go right ahead, because you're close. You're one or two pieces away from getting the ultimate goal, which is hoisting a Lombardi. So yeah, you go hunt, which is why they went and drafted a corner. There were other players that fit with Detroit. I told you Zach, what the hell is his last name? Zach Frazier out of West Virginia would have been a great fit in Detroit. He's the exact type player the Lions draft. Ex-wrestler, gritty, grimy, tough, nasty, physical, in the trenches. They lost one of their guards in Jonah Jackson in free agency. They could have replaced him with Zach Frazier, and they wouldn't have had to think twice about it. But you know what? They had other guys. They did some things in free agency. They were fine. They could get by. You know what they can't get by with is the cornerback position. They had a guy get into some domestic violence issues, had an arrest warrant out for him. They had to release him. They were already struggling in that corner. So you know what that became? A pressing need that they had to address, and they took a corner, right? That's what you do when you're that close. We're not that close. We're in the roster building phase. And when you're in the roster building phase, you take the best player possible. And even as you get into a position where you're a really good football team, you keep taking the best player available, if at all possible, right? Because again, that's going to raise the overall level of your roster. So the people that didn't get why we took Johnny Newton when we already had defensive tackles, you don't understand how this works. You're still thinking about how shit used to get done here, which is what kept us in mediocrity. Or as my guy would say, mired in mediocrity, right? That's what we've been for years. Mired in mediocrity because we always go hunting after the Jamin Davises because we got a need at linebacker. We go hunting after guys like Fedarian Mathis because we think we got a need at defensive tackle because Deron Payne probably isn't going to be re-signed. That's how you get stuck with guys that aren't as talented. They went out and they got a guy that they had a first-round grade on. I had a first-round grade on, and I talked about it in my mock draft, which is why I took him in my mock draft. Guys like that aren't supposed to show up at 36. And Adam Peters got antsy. I got antsy too. In my mock draft, Washington had traded with New England, and so they had the 34th pick. So it was even better for me because if we were at 36 and somebody asked me about this the other day, I said, I would entertain trading up to 34 just to make sure. And what happened? Atlanta jumped in front of us at the last second, and I know Adam Peters was sweating bullets. I know they were in the draft room saying, oh, shit, did we just F this up? Did we just botch this? Did we really just let another team jump in front of us and get our guy? And then they came up and took Rook or Row. Thank you, Jesus, for the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm not telling you that Rook or Row won't be a really good player. He's just not better than Johnny Newton in my mind's eye. But to each its own. They already got a guy in Grady Jarrett that kind of does some of the things. You can never have enough guys that do the things that Johnny Newton does, but he was sweating bullets, and he talked about it yesterday in the presser. Like, man, I wasn't sure. I thought we had just lost our opportunity, but everything worked itself out, and they got their guy, and I couldn't be more elated. You can never have enough, and I talked about this yesterday with the Giants. I used the comp of the early 2000 to mid 2000 Giants that won the Super Bowl in 2007. They kept building on a strength. Their strength was defensive line, right? With Strahan and Tuck and O.C. Umenyiora and Matthias Kiwanuka and all that, and they just kept building, and they just kept drafting guys and kept drafting guys and kept drafting guys. You're like, damn, don't y'all got enough? No, we don't. Because you know how we gonna end up beating your ass? Keep coming at you in waves with these edge rushers and these defensive tackles that you can't block. That's how they beat the Patriots in 2007. That vaunted, undefeated Patriots team. They beat them up in the trenches. You can never have enough. So as far as I'm concerned, anybody that's complaining or crying about, I can't believe we took a defensive tackle, we needed offensive tackle. I can. And I know why they did it. Because you don't pass up on first-round talent when you're sitting in the second round. You don't do it. You got to ask yourself, what's more important? Taking a position, and this is to boot right here. This is like the icing on the cake. This is the cherry on top. The value wasn't at tackle. There was no value there. People want you to take a tackle when there's no value there, right? Like that's the thing that is mind-boggling. It'd be one thing if there were 3 tackles there, like one of the big 6 was there and they chose a defensive tackle over one of those dudes. I'm like, I think you should have just taken the tackle. You got too cute there, right? No, there was no value at tackle in the second round at that point where we were. And the rest of the league said as much. It wasn't that we didn't take a tackle. No tackle was taken from the start of the second round, which is 33rd overall, to Washington's pick at 53. No tackle. After having 8 go in the first round, no tackle went for 20 straight selections. Washington made 3 selections in that time frame, and not a single one of them were a tackle, and not another team took a single tackle. So that tells you the value was simply not there. And now, if you want to gripe about a pick, the 53rd pick is the one that you have a bone to pick, because that was the one where if they were going to bypass, tackle, that's where you're kind of living dangerously, because now the value was back at tackle at 53. From that point on, from 53 to Washington's next selection, 67, like 4 tackles went off the board. And we watched guys like Blake Fisher and not Kieran Omegadeji, Blake Fisher, Kingsley, Suamataia. I think there was one more guy in particular that went off the board. Patrick Paul. He was the first one, as a matter of fact. We saw all those guys, that second wave of guys come off the board, and he said, hey, you had your chance. They took Ben Sinnott, and they felt good about that. So we'll talk about that whole situation, but I just wanted to set the record straight with the 36th pick in the draft. To me, it needs no defending. The value is not at tackle, and you're staring a first-round quality pick in the face. What are we talking about? Why are we even having this conversation? I don't know. Stop asking. Anyway, I digress. So you get to, and just one more thing on Johnny Newton. 13 sacks over the last 2 years, 23 tackles for loss over the last 2 years, including 7.5 sacks this past year for the Fighting Illini. We got ourselves a dog, okay, that hunts. I always tell you, get you a defensive lineman that can do both. We just got us one. So then you go to our next pick. We obviously traded back, picked up the 2 picks from the Eagles, 50 and 53. You know, some people are like, I can't believe you traded with the Eagles. They got what they needed. We got what we needed. And we took Mike Sainristil with the 50th pick. And that one made my heart smile, along with the Johnny Newton. Like, those two picks right there is when I knew, okay, we got us a real one. Like, we ain't got us one of them fake GMs. We got one of these real ones over here. Now, he ain't for fake. He ain't for play. We got us a real GM over here, making real big boy noise, right? Because you knew how I felt about Mike Sainristil. Like, I told y'all that was my guy last year. Watching him against Ohio State is where I fell in love with him. And they were telling me, this is his first year playing defensive back. I'm like, shit, I can't tell. Yeah, he used to be a receiver for 3 years. I was like, well, shit. He looks good to me. You know, his game is excellent. And he only got better this past year. 6 interceptions, 3 of them, I think he took to the crib. I might be thinking about a different player. I know he had 6 interceptions this year. And the reason he had that many interceptions is because he had incredible ball skills. He's a former receiver, right? So he's physical. He's tough. He can blitz. He tackles well. He's smart. His ball skills, as I mentioned. He's a leader, right? That was the first thing that I heard about him last year. Not this year, last year, when he was playing against Ohio State, was he told those boys, hey, we beating them. And they remember, they had that long streak where they had beaten Ohio State, and then that Aiden Hutchinson class, his last year, beat Ohio State for the first time. And Sainristil said, hey, that was at home, and we got them. But we're going to keep these boys down. And we going into the horseshoe, and that was their first time going into the horseshoe and blessing those boys. And he had a big pass breakup, and he was doing his damn thing. And I was like, who is this dude, man? And they say, yo, this is the leader, right? El Capitan. And I watched him play, and I said, I see why. And he continued on doing that this year. I couldn't be more thrilled with the selection. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if in 2 years we got the best nickel corner in the league. That's how much I believe in this dude. He's going to be that good. I drool over other. Remember, I wanted Mike Hilton in free agency like 3-4 years ago, and I watched him kill it for Cincinnati. And I was like, man, never get nobody I want us to get. We could have had him, man. And I watched guys like Kenny Moore kill it in the slot, and I'm like, when we going to get one of those? You know, all I get is Danny Johnson in the slot. When we going to get one of these dudes, man? I watched Chris Harris Jr. for years lock dudes up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock dudes up in the slot. I remember once upon a time, Kendall Fuller was doing that. We thought we had the best nickel corner in the league at one point. And just when we were getting comfortable with the idea that we might have one of the best nickels, Bruce Allen traded his ass. Just like that, he was gone. We weren't allowed to have nice things back in those days. So you know how that goes. We about to have that feeling again. Legitimately. With Mike Sainristil. Love that pick. Then you go on to Ben Sinnott. And if you want to gripe about not taking a tackle, this is the pick you should be griping about. Not Johnny Newton. Not Mike Sainristil. This is the one. Because every tackle that you could have wanted in that second pocket, in that second wave was there. And if you wanted to kick off the activity, you could have. Clearly, and this is what I love, I don't have to guess how they felt about Blake Fisher or Patrick Paul or Kingsley Suamataia. I don't have to guess. I know they valued Ben Sinnott more than they did those tackles. And you can say what you want. You can take it however you like. Go get the guy that you think is the best fit and the best player for this team. Again, raise the floor. That's what I'm all about. Don't go chasing a need and watering down the roster in the process. Go get the guy that you think is going to elevate the play of this roster. We'll figure out the tackle position. And they ultimately did. We'll talk about that here in a second. But they went and got a guy, and I listened to him talk, and he said, man, I told y'all this last night, and I hadn't listened to him talk yet, but I told y'all this last night. I said, I bet you he was in San Francisco, and he was like, yo, I seen up close and personal what this tight end shit is supposed to look like. I know firsthand what this shit is supposed to look like. And I'm going to get me a guy that can do both. Jatavion Sanders is cool, and he ended up going with the very first pick of day 3. Carolina Panthers, I think they've done a phenomenal job of surrounding Bryce Young with weapons this year. Last year, they didn't give him jack diddly poo squat. They did the same thing the Bears did to Justin Fields. In year 1, they told Justin Fields, figure that shit out. Year 2, they said, all right, man, we did you dirty last year. All right. We're going to give you some stuff now, man. We're going to give you a little something to work with. That's what they did with Bryce Young. They went and got him some weapons. They went and got him a running back in Brooks, Xavier Legette at receiver. I think they drafted 2 tight ends. They're not fucking around. They like, all right, Bryce, we're going to set you up for some success. But he doesn't block. And having seen what it's supposed to look like up close and personal with George Kittle and even Kyle Juszczyk to a lesser degree, he's like, bro, I can't see myself drafting a dude that's not going to get dirty and physical and nasty in the trenches. I just can't do it. And so he took Sinnott, and he's a good athlete too. And similar to George Kittle, his run after the catch, go look him up. Go look at go watch his highlights. Because I know a lot of y'all are highlight watchers. I watched like 4 games of Ben Sinnott. And you see the same shit over there. He breaking tackles. He's dragging dudes. You're not going to come with some half-ass attempt at a tackle. He's going to drag your ass. He's going to get nasty and physical in the run game. I'm not telling you he's the best blocker, but damn, if he's not going to get gritty in there, now he's going to fight your ass tooth and nail. I like him on the move. And Adam Peters said, hey, I like him anywhere. On the move, in line, detached. I like him everywhere. Cool. You say cool? Cool. So they went and got their guy. I love it. Want more of it. Speaking of which, we go to the next pick, 3rd round, 67th overall, Brandon Coleman, offensive lineman out of TCU. Last night, let me go ahead and apologize right now. I made the mistake of calling this man a guard, right? It's flat out, hey, we drafted a guard in the 3rd round. What are we doing here? Sam Cosmi must be getting kicked in outside, and they must be doing some reshuffling of the deck. And y'all told me last night, before I had a chance to watch, y'all told me, oh, no. They drafted this guy to be a tackle, and Adam Peters clearly views him as a tackle. I said, okay, I'll be the judge of that. I mean, clearly it doesn't matter what I think. It's what they think and how they perceive him to project to the next level. And sure enough, I went and watched, and just like you guys said, Tua, word for word, verbatim, this guy's a tackle. They see him as a tackle, and he talked about having, 1,600 snaps or whatever at tackle in his career. He talked about, this guy being a team captain, just like he did with all the other players that they selected, right? A guy that you can count on, and they really value that clearly in this year's draft because you're setting the foundation, right? That you want that first draft to be a foundational building block type of draft. So you want guys with high character, guys that were captains, things of that nature. They got to be good players at its core. They got to be good players, right? You can't be a captain and get no run, right? So I went back and watched Brandon Coleman, because I called the man a guard, and I'm not even going front. I watched 2 games, and he primarily played guard in those games. And again, when you're in college, you see some of these offensive linemen shuffle around. 3 straight snaps, they're at tackle, and then they kick inside the guard for the next 7 plays. And then next time you see them, they're back at tackle, or they'll be at tackle, then they'll kick inside the guard, and then they'll go back out the tackle after 2 snaps at guard, or vice versa, right? You see, there's nothing to see that in the college game because they're trying to get guys in the, it's a different game now too. If you don't play guys fast enough with NIL deals and this transfer portal, If a guy comes in there and expects to play and he doesn't get enough snaps, he'll leave. So you'll see them taking, I'm watching Georgia. Why do you think Amarius Mims, isn't starting at Georgia? Because they got to get guys on the field, man. You got to get guys. This shit is crazy to me, man. But I digress. So I went and I sought out games in which he was at tackle. I went back to 2022. I wanted to watch him against Michigan in the semifinal game, right? The playoff game. And I thought he played really well, actually, right? I was like, oh shit. This is actually pretty good tape. Now, I don't think any of the guys he was going up against were all that, dynamic as rushers, but I still thought he did a really good job. So then I said, okay, they got the ass whooped against Georgia. Let me see what he did here. Right? This is a better barometer of what he's capable of. And it wasn't all smooth sailing, but with the type of athletes they put in front of him with the Georgia Bulldogs, and one of them is in the division right now for the Philadelphia Eagles that they took in the first round last year. I thought he held his own, man. Better movement skills than I gave him credit for initially. He does a really good job of he's got some G.I. Joe Kung Fu grip on his ass, right? Like once he locks your shit up, get those two mitts on you and gives you one of these, you ain't shaking free, bro. It ain't no detaching, your rush is done, bro. It's over. From a run blocking standpoint, he's basic. He's not a man mover. He's more of a barrier, and that's fine. I prefer guys that are going to be, dominant, dick in the dirt type of, blockers where I'm going to take you against your will, pick your ass up, and move you 2 yards off the ball, right? It takes a rare breed to do that. Not everybody's built to do that, and he's not that type of guy. But what he will do is he'll take his body, he'll take his ass, and he'll turn it sideways, and he'll wall you off from the ball carrier and give that ball carrier a clear, decisive rush lane. Like, I know exactly how to cut off your block. And that's all you really ask for as a running back or a ball carrier is give me a clear, decisive path off of which to cut off your block so I don't have to guess as to where's the best way to go and cause you to do something like hold because I didn't know which way to cut off your block, right? So he does that. So all in all, my final synopsis is he's a guy that is in the mix and plausible at tackle. He's a very intriguing option. Like for where we got him, he fits. Like a lot of people get, I think, so fixated on names. He's no different than Kingsley Suamataia. Literally, I feel the exact same way about him, Coleman I'm talking about, as I do Suamataia. I think Suamataia is probably a better athlete. That's the thing that I would say. He moves better. There's higher upside, maybe just a little bit. But from a play standpoint, I'd even tell you that functionally, Brandon Coleman is stronger than Kingsley Suamataia, more technically sound than Kingsley Suamataia. Where there's a discrepancy for me is probably athleticism. But Suamataia wasn't moving guys against their will, right? He wasn't, he's a little bit more nasty now. I like him nasty, and he was a little bit more nasty. It was Suamataia, but Coleman gets the job done. And he fit right in that third round range where those other tackles were for me. And so it makes a lot more sense now. So remember last night, I said, what would have made a perfect day 2 for me? Ideally, get a fringe first round pick. Check. And Johnny Newton. Trade back from either 40 or 78. Check. I put a small baby check, if you remember yesterday, on Coleman because y'all told me he said he was a tackle. I hadn't done the work yet, so I put a baby check. Well, I'm erasing that. I put that in pencil, so I'm going to erase that. Check. Brandon Coleman's a tackle. Okay. till otherwise notified, he's a tackle. And the beauty of it is, if he's not a tackle, he kicks inside and he becomes Brandon Sheriff. Are you bitching about that? Because I'm not. I mean, I know we need a tackle, but it's good to have a fallback plan in the event that he's not, right? So Coleman's a tackle. So I feel even better about yesterday's, work that was done. Then you finish up with Luke McCaffrey. I had done some like preliminary work on him coming into the draft. But I actually went in and I did a deep dive on him today just to kind of clean up and reaffirm what I initially thought about him. And I can say with 100% honesty, he is what I said he was yesterday. He's a poor man's Ricky Pearsall. He's Ricky Pearsall light. Now, Ricky Pearsall is a guy that is a little bit more gritty in terms of with the ball in his hands. Like he's a yak type of guy, right? Like the 49ers actually see Ricky Pearsall as another Debo Samuel. I was like, hey, y'all stop playing. He ain't that. But they see those kind of qualities in him. I don't see those type of qualities at all whatsoever in Luke McCaffrey. But what I do see is a guy that will catch the football, will be fearless, just like his daddy was, as I said yesterday, over the middle of the field. He will take a shot and he will catch that football. He can work what I realized, and Adam Peters said that this guy, people don't realize how tall he is. He's almost 6'2". And he said he's so quick and, for his size. He moves like a guy. He has the feet of a 5'9" guy, but he's at 6'2", right? And when I watched him, I said, damn, he's smooth, right? You see him running. He's gliding out there, but he's tough. He's a little rugged. So he's going to fit right in with what we need, a reliable target that you can get the football to. And, I like that addition to the room, right? So you get to day 3. We talked about those guys already. So now you kind of put it all together, right? You look at it in its totality. And, man, this feels like an A draft. I don't like being a prisoner of the moment. It's easy to do that. Obviously, we can't grade this draft until we see what it produces for us. But that never stops anyone, including myself, from giving drafts grades. You always throw out the caveat of, hey, we can't truly evaluate this draft for, 2 to 3 years. But on the surface, all initial reports look like this is an A draft, especially if Jaden Daniels works out. I mean, I know this is going to sound crazy, but for those of you who know, the other 8 guys could turn out to be busts. And if Jaden Daniels is a home run, this draft is a success. And just as crazy is all 8 guys not named Jaden Daniels could be fantastic football players, including 2 or 3 being all pros, and Jaden Daniels sucks. And we'll still look at this draft as most of us will be able to see the forest for the trees and go, man, that still was a hell of a draft. I know you didn't get your quarterback, but most people are going to be like, nah, man, after that draft, we didn't get our quarterback. We still suck, right? So a lot is going to hinge upon what happens at quarterback. But when you remove quarterback from the equation and you just look at the rest of the stuff that they were able to acquire, the other 8 selections, and I'd say remove the crust, right? So treat this draft like a sandwich. Take the crust off. The crust is your first and your last pick. So Jaden Daniels and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Take that off. Take the crust off and just look at the sandwich and say, damn, this looks like a really good sandwich. Because that's what it looks like to me. This looks like a damn good sandwich. This reminds me of some Quiznos shit, right? Y'all can't tell me Quiznos didn't used to be bomb back in the day. I still don't know why Quiznos didn't work. Life before a vegan, man, I would bust some Quiznos down. I would go there. They had this crazy roast beef sub. They would put that au jus sauce on it, put that shit in the toaster, and I would watch that bitch go right through the toaster oven. That shit come out. Oh, my God. They give you the little dipping sauce. You dip the damn, sandwich in there. That's what this draft looks like. Fresh off the toaster at Quiznos. Chef P cooking it up, man. Delicioso. So, let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. All right. Let's get this jumping off. All right. Start the night off with Mr. Ron B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Mr. Ron B. Writes, Lou, really appreciate you keeping the stream open early this AM. Allowing the 550 or so of us to stay signed on to hear you watch AP's presser and some Dave Chappelle. So first of all, shout out to everybody that tried to get my attention and stop me from, first of all, I'm so glad I'm who I say I am, and I'm not some fraud. And I didn't have a hot mic and get caught saying some crazy shit, right? But I'm who I tell y'all I am, right? So I have nothing to hide. I'm so glad that I wasn't doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. Like I didn't leave the stream to watch porn or something, because I would have been in some trouble, right? I had no idea that this thing was on, right? Clearly I did not. And so I told y'all what I was going to do, right? I said, after this is done, I'm going to see what Adam Peters had to say. What did I do? I went, I can tell you exactly what I did. My wife asked me, like, what did you do? Because people are acting like the streaming. She was the one that told me. My wife woke me up. So I fell asleep to Dave Chappelle, right? And my wife, we were both on the couch knocked out. And I'll tell you exactly what went down. But I got off the stream. And like I normally do, I turn off all my lights. I turn off the camera. The camera was still on. And that should have told me something. The camera was still on. But it didn't dawn on me that I didn't end the stream. I just thought I left the camera on. So I turned the camera off. And then I saw some of the highlights from the basketball game. The Indiana Pacers and the Bucks had this crazy game that went to overtime. I hadn't seen any of the highlights. The highlights were on. So I took the TV off of mute and I started watching the highlights of the Bucks and Pacers, right? And so I watched that for like 2 minutes, and then I went and got me, the rest of my bowl from Kava. I had a Kava bowl. So I got the rest of that, and I sat down and I turned on Adam Peters and I watched his press conference. I started to dive into all of the, calls to the guys that they drafted, but I was like, I don't feel like getting into that right now. I'll save that for another time. So then I was like, all right, I can't go to sleep because I just ate. I have to sit up for a while. So what was crazy, I was on YouTube because I watched the press conference on YouTube, and I just happened to see somebody had like a post of Dave Chappelle, like a mashup of his stand-up, but the thumbnail was of a show I'd never seen before, and it looked like one of those shows he had done somewhere, like at a hole in the wall type spot. And somebody recorded it or something like that. Just like the one where he had gotten into it with I forgot the light-skinned dude's name. D. Ray Davis over Cat Williams. He got into it with D. Ray Davis. That wasn't like a major show. He was doing a show. I think he had come to celebrate Deion Cole's birthday, right? So somebody just whipped out their phone and, recorded it, which they tell you not to do, but they did it anyway. And so it was some of that stuff. It was some material I had never heard before. So I was like, all right, well, I clicked on that and I watched a little bit of that. And next thing I know, probably about an hour later, I was knocked out. And then my wife, nudged me and was like, hey, let's go upstairs and get into bed. So I was like, cool. So we get up, we go upstairs and turn everything off. And we get in the bed. I'm literally under the covers. I'm about to shut my eyes. And my wife's like, you know, you still alive, right? I'm like, stop playing. She's like, no, I literally clicked on it's still on right now. And then it dawned on me when I was on YouTube, my video popped up and it said live and it said 440 viewers. But I was like, I thought it was just like, it didn't process that I had closed it out. Like, because I've seen it do that before. And then I, got up and checked and it wasn't on. So I was like, oh, the YouTube was already on. It probably just didn't, process that I had already closed out the stream or whatever. So then when she said that, it dawned on me. I did see it say 440. First of all, shout out to all of you who stayed. What were you trying to stay around to see if I was going to say something or do something out of pocket? Like, what did you stick around for? Why did you not just leave and say, I hope he turns the stream off? Why did you stick around? Like, it's almost like y'all was trying to catch me on some aha shit. Like, aha, gotcha. So my wife's like, yo, your stream is still live. I was like, stop it. She's like, no, it's still live. This is 5 something in the morning. So I raced downstairs and I closed it out. And I just remember one person saying, finally, he closed it out. And I'm like, what are you still doing here, man? What are you still doing here? So it was crazy. It was a lot of people still on the stream. It was wild. Anyway, I digress. I'm glad that I gave y'all some entertainment, though. I mean, at least if I'm gonna keep a hot mic running, at least have it be something that's going to entertain you in the meantime. So at least it was Dave Chappelle. I didn't leave y'all with some trash, right? So I will say that was crazy, though. That was a whole crazy ordeal right there. I'm glad I could entertain you even after I was still no longer live. Bradley Roche, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Show Bradley some love. Welcome him with open arms. Welcome to the squad, Bradley Roche. Same can be said for Brian Hancock. Stand up. You are now the newest member of the MOBB mob. Show Brian what it's like to be a member of the greatest squad in the game, the MOBB. Welcome to the squad. Welcome aboard, Brian Hancock. Ethan Dykes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ethan writes, Lou, can't lie. I'm concerned about our size at corner. I like Sainristil, but I have Forbes PTSD. Plus, I can't believe Adams traded with those damn dirty birds. So I don't know why you're worried about size at corner. Our 2 boundary corners right now. First of all, we might have the biggest set of corners in the league. Michael Davis is 6'2", who we signed from the Chargers. And Emmanuel Forbes is 6'3", 6'4", right? He's not 6'4". Emmanuel Forbes is probably like 6'3". And then Benjamin St. Juste is 6'3". So we got size at corner. You shouldn't be concerned about that. Now, Mikey Sainristil is 5'9", but that's what corners inside are. They're 5'9", they're 5'10". You don't care about size inside in the slot. That shouldn't bother you at all. I mean, if they put a behemoth in there, so what? It is what it is, right? You want guys with quickness, low center of gravity a lot of times in the slot, right? That's why I didn't trust Benjamin St. Juste inside, because he wasn't quick enough. So I don't worry about our size at all. What I worry about is the man-to-man coverage ability of Emmanuel Forbes and where his confidence is. That's what I worry about. We'll see what we have, when the time comes. But I'm not too concerned about cornerback, to be honest with you. Mike Sainristil, coupled with the addition of damn, I just forgot his name that quick. I literally just said his name. But the corner from the Chargers, you couple those two together, and I feel good about our secondary. Again, we'll see what happens with Emmanuel Forbes, but I like what we got going on. And as far as trading with the Eagles, look, that's the cost of doing business. At that point, the value for what they were trying to accomplish. How do you turn down an opportunity to get 2 second-round picks? I went through that exercise yesterday, so I'm not going to do it again today. I went through that exercise last night, but you can't turn down that opportunity unless the player that you're in the position to take and prepared to take is a guy that you just say, I got to have this guy. And while Cooper DeJean is really good, he's not a guy you have to have. He's a guy you really want. We didn't have to have him, though. If that were the case, we would have taken him at 36, right? Like, if the Eagles had called us at 40 and wanted to trade and Johnny Newton was on the board, we probably would not have traded them the pick. That's my guess. You're staring a first-round pick in the face. You're not going to do that. Like, assuming that we didn't have 36 and 40. Let's just say we had 40, no 36, and Johnny Newton was there, and the Eagles call us, we're probably going to reject that trade because you got Johnny Newton right here on the hook, and you're not going to throw him back in the water after you've reeled him in. No way, right? You already got Johnny Newton, and you were like, man, we playing with house money now, right? Remember I told y'all if we got both of them, I'm doing cartwheels because you're playing with house money at that point. You got your fringe. I said one. I didn't say two. Get you one fringe first rounder. We got that already. Now move back and pick up two more, pick up an additional second round pick. It's hard to turn down, man. Even if it's the Eagles, I get it. But I told you this before, and I'll tell you this again, and I've said it many a times. The draft makes bedfellows out of sworn enemies. Meaning, you can be the worst of enemies, but on draft night, for the right price, we can be friends. We can be friends. Jason Rogers, my guy, Uncle Jay, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Uncle Jay, writes, damn, Lou, we still drinking? F it. I'm down. Hell yeah, we drinking. This is a celebration, bitches. Grab a drink, grab a glass. Hey, babe, after this, I'm grabbing ass. Yeah. It's a celebration. Hell yeah. We just went out and had a fantastic draft over the last 3 days. I'd say that's a damn reason to drink. Hell yes. King of the Bluegrass. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I'm taking an over-under on how long J5 lasts with no tackles. Other than that, I love the draft. The cornerback boundaries scared the shit out of me. I get it. I mean, Michael Davis is the other corner. I don't know why I had a brain fart for a second, but yeah, I get why you could be, look, with what the division has shaped into in terms of receivers, and then the Eagles or the Giants adding Malik Neighbors. Yeah, you should be nervous about the corners that we have on the boundary. All the more reason why you should want to go get a guy like Johnny Newton to try to stop them from having time to deliver the football, to disrupt the timing so that they can't get the ball to A.J. Brown, or they can't get it to Devontae Smith, or get it to CeeDee Lamb, or get it to Jalen Hyatt or Malik Neighbors down the field. You should want another guy on that defensive line that gives you a chance to win and get to the quarterback. You're taking over-unders on how long JD5 lasts. Again, I think, and somebody brought this up yesterday, I believe. Somebody said a lot of people, and I've been saying this, and I got killed for this, which is fine. I don't mind being out on an island. I told y'all the offensive line wasn't as bad as y'all thought it was last year. Now, I'm not telling you it was a good group. I'm just telling you it wasn't as bad as the sack totals may indicate. Sam had a lot to do with that. Eric Bieniemy had a lot to do with that. It was a bad system. It was a bad scheme. And the quarterback play at times and the play calling didn't lend itself to that group being put in a position to succeed. I'm not telling you that I want either one of the tackles back, and neither one of them are going to be starting at tackle this year. But I'm just telling you that this line is going to be fine. I truly believe that. Between Cosme, who to me is a rock now at right guard, Cornelius Lucas, who I trust. I've already told you that. I don't love him not being my swing tackle. I'd much rather him be my swing tackle. But I trust him starting. He's never given me a reason to doubt that he can do it. I'm not telling you he's going to be great. I'm telling you he's going to – I'll sleep easy. I'll rest easy. I'll sleep well at night knowing Cornelius Lucas is either the left or right tackle, probably the right tackle. I'll be fine with that. So we got Tyler Biadasz at center. We already know he's a very good, competent NFL center. So it's not like last year when we were inserting Nick Gates. And then you keep going down that line. We'll see what Nick Allegretti brings to the table, right? See what he does. We got in-house competition too. We got guys that were here last year. You still got Ricky Stromberg. You add in Braden Daniels. You still got Chris Paul, other guys that can improve and get better. We'll see what happens with that competition, right? All those guys that you got in the mix. And then you got Brandon Coleman. So, and again, we don't have to be done necessarily, but I don't think he's going to be under siege the way you think. And then you also got to take into consideration the type of offense we're running. With Cliff Kingsbury's scheme, you're going to see a lot of quarterback run, which is going to keep the defense honest. You're not going to be able to just pin your ears back, get after the quarterback. You're going to have to respect QB run, right? RPOs and things of that nature. They're going to run the football. I think they're going to take a lot of pressure off the quarterback position. If you haven't watched Cliff Kingsbury's offense, then you don't really have an idea, a working knowledge of what's to come. But the ball's coming out quick for the most part. You're going to run it, and the quarterback run game is going to be prevalent, and that's going to stop teams from just, being aggressive and trying to get up the field. There's going to be a lot of things that the defense is going to have to think about defending our offense, and it's going to help the offensive line out a ton. But anyway, I digress. I get the cornerback concerns though on the boundary. I get it. Metro Cash, thank you for being a member for 8 months. Who writes, "What up, Lou? Are you surprised they went that heavy on defense?" No. I thought that we would see more offensive players potentially, but I'm not surprised. I mean, when you think about it, they took a tight end, they took a receiver, they took a quarterback, they took a tackle. That's 4 out of the 9 picks right there. I think all the rest of the picks were all defenders though. Cornerback, safety, linebacker, edge rusher, and what am I missing? And defensive tackle, right? So they kind of split it down the middle. I thought if it went 5-4, I thought it would be 5 offensive, 4 defensive, but it wasn't like it was 6-3 defensive to offensive or 7-2. It was 5-4, and they got all the. And remember, I told you I didn't think they were going to take a running back, and I told you the running back party started in the 3rd round, and it did. And we didn't have a 4th round pick, and that's where Jalen Wright came off the board, and that's where the guys that I wanted, I thought would be in the 4th round, and we didn't have a 4th round pick. So I was like, they're probably not going to take a running back. So that was the only other position that they were going to take offensively, unless they doubled down on the offensive line, and they didn't see the need to do that. So, when you think about free agency, you think about all the defensive guys they brought in, but they brought in some offensive guys too, especially on the offensive line. But they also brought back Jamison Crowder, and they signed Olamide Zaccheaus, and they brought in Zach Ertz. And so they did some things. McNichols at the running back position. They did some stuff on offense to where they probably weren't going to be super aggressive. They brought in a couple quarterbacks and Mariota and I forgot the other backup that I was talking about that came from Houston a couple years ago. think he was in Cincinnati last year. But yeah, I'm not surprised. I think it went the way that I thought it would go. Ethan Dykes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Right. Also very worried about this O-line now. Can you believe we passed on DeJean, Fisher, and Booker? Chef P might have overcooked the meal a few times. No, I wanted Austin Booker, but I already told you, Austin Booker was a guy that I wanted them to like as much as I did. I only even knew about him because they had him in for a visit. So it's not like this is a guy that was a second round pick and we passed on him in the third round. They passed on him in the fifth round and he went in the fifth round, right? So they didn't value him the way that I did. That's fine. Or they valued another player over him. Again, that's fine. As far as DeJean is concerned, I'm taking quantity over quality there in that particular position. Because when you think about it, so pound for pound, again, ask yourself this, and I think some of you guys struggle with this concept. I think some of y'all struggle with this concept. Do you want the fourth or fifth best corner in the draft? Or if you consider him a safety, maybe he's the best safety in the draft class. Maybe. Depending on how you view him. Or do you want the best nickel in the draft? We got the best nickel corner. Bucky Brooks says he has two separate categories for nickels, big nickel and little nickel. Maybe Cooper DeJean is his best big nickel and Mike Sainristil is his best little nickel. Whatever the case may be, let's assume that they're each the best nickel, one big, one little. Then we got Ben Sinnott on top of that. So advantage Commanders, okay? Advantage us. So I'd rather have two players that are going to impact this team moving forward than just one, if that makes any sense. And then as far as Fisher is concerned, if there's a gripe, that's the one, right? Is that you had a chance at 53 and you passed on the opportunity to take a tackle, to take a tight end. I don't have any issues with it personally. That they valued Ben Sinnott, and here's the thing. Zach Ertz is going to be here for a year, and more likely than not, he won't be back next year. I told you, you want to set this thing up that if this year is a 7-8 win season, next year you're ready. Like, you want this to be Detroit Lions 2 years ago. When the Lions went, I think they went 8-9, finished off the season, going to Lambeau in a meaningless game for them because Seattle had won earlier in the day or something to that effect that eliminated them. I think they ended up finishing the season out like 9-8 or something like that. And they were 8-8 at the time, needed Seattle to lose to make that game mean something for them. Seattle won. And so they didn't have anything to play for. But Green Bay, if they won, they were in. And they went to Lambeau and they beat the Packers and got to 9-8, missed the playoffs. But everybody knew, hey, these boys, they coming. That's how I want this to feel after this first season. Like, oh shit, Washington is coming, bro. Like, I liken it to 50 Cent. Like, everybody knew, yo, push your shit out. Get as much product in the street as you can. 50's coming. And when he drops, everything else is obsolete. Get your shit out now. Why you think Rockefeller was pushing all their product? Like, get your music out now. Because in a couple of months, 50's dropping and all of our shit is going to be rendered irrelevant. That's how I want this shit to feel. At the end of this season, I want everybody, hey, get your shit up now because Washington's coming. That's how everybody's kind of looking at Houston right now. Like, hey, we better watch out, man. These goddamn Texans, they coming, right? That's how I want it to be for us next year. And that's why you drafted Ben Sinnott. So when Zach Ertz leaves and departs next year, Sinnott just slides in seamlessly into the starting lineup. Keep the party going. Like, we ain't even going to stop to pick nobody up. Just jump in the damn whip. We already rolling. So I like it. You can draft a tackle like playing tackle doesn't require you to like learn, this extravagant playbook. Like you just got blocking schemes, right? You just work on your technique as a tackle. You're more likely to be able to integrate a tackle than you are a tight end into your offense seamlessly. So give me the tight end. Let them learn this year. So next year, we hitting the ground running. We hitting the ground running with Luke McCaffrey. Everybody's ready to rock and roll next year. Let's say Diami is still getting more targets and more opportunities than Luke this year. That's fine. Next year, Luke will step in and be ready to go seamlessly, transition right into the offense. Let's roll. I like it. I like it a lot. We'll see about Brandon Coleman. That's the only thing you could argue right now. He might have overcooked slightly. But I'm willing to give it a chance. I watched him. I like what I saw. He looked like a third-round tackle to me. Worst case scenario, he's a third-round guard. Cool. Brian Hutchinson. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Brian writes, what up, Lou? It's been a while. Glad I could catch you live. Took me a bit to get past how how EB ruined it. Excuse me. But I'm on board with the new plan, and Daniels has grown on me. That definitely was a sad state of affairs, what happened to Sam. And I mourned it a little bit last year. I'm not even going to front. I mourned that situation. I think what helped me out was I was able to mourn it as it was happening. Some of y'all, it took y'all to the off season to get over it. I saw the death of NHO happening right in front of my eyes. Like, I remember after the Seattle game, and I don't want to talk y'all head off about this. Y'all probably tired hearing this shit. So I'll just make it quick. I remember after the Seattle game, I said, doesn't matter what Sam does down the stretch. He's already proven himself to me. He can play in this league. I remember saying that like it was yesterday. And then for the shit to happen that happened after that game, it's like he just fell the hell apart. Split at the seams. And I just don't know what transpired. And, other than people beating into his head, get rid of the ball, don't take a sack. And it just got worse and worse, man. But I'm glad you've gotten over that. I'm glad Jaden Daniels is growing on you because he's going to be a dog. He's going to be a player for us. So I'm glad you're coming to the table now and you're sitting down and you have this beautiful meal in front of you that Chef P has prepared for us. French Montana. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Lou, fresh. I want it made, but super excited we got JD. I believe they got it right. We finally have a franchise superstar QB. Free agency and the draft tells me the defense will keep us in games while the offense gets their stride. Excellent draft. Well said. That's how I felt before the draft. And I told you I may up the win total after seeing what the draft looked like. And I probably will up the win total slightly. I still don't think this is a, 9-win team or anything like that. I think the number for me was somewhere between 5 and 7 wins, I think I said. Now it's 6 to 8 wins that I think this team is capable of. And if, they hit the inside straight, the ball bounces their way, Joe Witt Jr. delivers on his promise of creating turnovers here, and Jaden Daniels is what we think he has a chance to be, then that number definitely increases to 9, possibly 10. But for me, it's 6 to 8 wins, and it will probably fall somewhere in the middle there, 7. But at the end of the day, that's a vast improvement from the nightmare and the train wreck that was the 2023 season. So anything that I don't see how any product we put on the field could be any worse than what we watched last year. Last year was a shit show. So I'm excited. And he has a chance to be a superstar quarterback, which is why I was content with any of the top 3 quarterbacks in this draft class. Really thought that all 3 of them had the potential to be superstars. You know, maybe come at different times. You know, with Caleb Williams and Jalen Daniels, it might come a lot sooner than it will for Drake May, but ultimately May has a chance to be a really good quarterback in this league as well, too. So I felt comfortable with any of the top 3 passers in this draft. We got the one that's probably the most pro-ready to step in and play right away. And I feel damn good about what he's going to bring to the table for us. So Commander-in-Chief Daily, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, we just pulled the plug on Dallas Cowboys run. Flatline. I mean, they might have pulled the plug on their own run. I mean, they just were so stagnant this year, and they lost a lot of pieces. They didn't replenish those pieces. So we'll see. We'll see what Dallas does. I'll never count them out, because until we start beating them, until the Giants start beating them, they'll have a shot to do damage, because right now they're looking at us as 2 wins. They're looking at the Giants as 2 wins, and they just got to find a way to beat Philadelphia once. You do that, that's 5 wins. You're halfway to 10, right? So we got to do our part to try to take Dallas down. Same with Philadelphia, right? The Eagles look at us as 2 wins. They look at the Giants as 2 wins, and they just got to find a way to beat Dallas. That shit can't continue to exist in that manner. So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of the end of that shit. You know, it starts in the division, right? When we talk about wanting to be competitive, it starts in the division. We haven't been competitive enough within the division. You know, it shouldn't feel like we just pulled off a momentous, gigantic upset when we beat the Eagles in Philadelphia on a Monday night. That's not how it's supposed to feel when you're playing a divisional foe. We should be able to look at them and say, no, we can beat their ass. I felt that in my spirit last year. Like, we're supposed to beat them. We let them off the hook twice. We had them both times. Big leads, both games. Let them off the hook both times. We didn't come close to Dallas, though. They smoked us twice. Now, you know, we hung tough with Dallas in the first half on Thanksgiving, and we just couldn't play any defense. And then, you know, the wheels fell off in the fourth quarter, and it got ugly quick. But I don't think we've gotten our asses whooped more by another team in the division than Dallas. We may not find ways to beat the Giants, but it's always close. We just find a way to piss it away against them. Dallas, they embarrass us more than any other team in the division, and I'm sick of that shit. Sick of it. Some of the worst ass whoopings you could think of the last 5 years have come at the hands of Dallas. 56-14, Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne fighting on the sidelines. That was Dallas. Both of the ass whoopings last year, the Thanksgiving shit was just egregious because it's national television. They throwing LeBron and D-Wade alleys. They reaching for drumsticks in the damn Salvation Army tub. Like, sick of this shit, man. Like, I'm ready for this shit to end, right? So let's do it. Brian Hutchison, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I love the interviews of the young bucks so far. Different character vibes already. Which rook will have the biggest impact in 2024 outside of JD, and why, in your opinion? Of the guys that we just drafted. So if you're talking about overall, if you're talking about free agents too, I don't think you are. So I'm going to move them out of the conversation. I'm just talking about the rookies. I think the biggest contributor right away is going to be Mike Sainristil. He's starting. Like, Newton ain't going to start, but he's going to get significant snaps. He's going to play a lot. They're going to find ways to get him on the field. But Mikey Sainristil is starting at nickel. Okay. He's going to see the field quite a bit, and they're going to utilize him in a multitude of ways. And I've already told you, he's got a chance to be the best nickel, not the best nickel in the division or he's got a chance to be the best nickel in the league in 2-3 years. By the time we get to the end of his rookie contract, we're going to be like, yo, sign this man up now. Like, get this man a contract. Somebody get this man a contract. Telling you, he's going to be a flat-out dog. And for all the shit we talking about Brandon Coleman, if we don't mention him and he's starting, then that means he's had a massive impact. So look out for him too, right? But Ben Sinnott shouldn't be starting. Johnny Newton shouldn't be starting. Luke McCaffrey shouldn't be getting the bulk of the, touches. Defensively, the guys we drafted in day 3 aren't going to be massive contributors right away, obviously. So to me, it's Mike Sainristil. He's playing right away, and he's going to have a ton of different, roles and things put on his plate, and they're going to ask him to do a whole hell of a lot. And too much is given, much is expected, and they're going to put a lot on his plate. And I think he's ready for it. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny, thank you for being a member of the MOBB Rights. What's up, Lou? What's up, Big Money Sonny? We lit. Indeed. The league is on notice. Here comes the nuts deep in the tonsils. Wait a minute. What are we doing here? Pause. Gigantic pause. What are we doing right now? Right? Let's effing go, he says. This is all I know, right? This is what I can tell you. After this season is done, I want to be in a position. I just said this 5 minutes ago. I want to be in a position where everybody knows, hey, look out for Washington. I think we're starting to put people on notice with the way we're conducting business. I've heard more analysts, more talking heads say, hey, man, I love what they're doing in Washington. I've heard that more times in this 2.5 month period that has just gone on between free agency and the draft. I've heard it more in this small period than I have over the last 25 years combined. So clearly, they're doing things in a manner that people can respect, get on board with, and think they're trending in the right direction. Now we got to see it actually provide dividends on the football field. It's a results-based business. We could talk about all of this shit till our face turns blue about what it looks like on paper, but we about that action, boss. So that's what we need to see. But by season's end, I want them to know they're on notice. Stop effing around and be a man. I'm looking to let people know, hey, we about to stop effing around. That's the goal. That's what it should look like. Anyway, so before we get to the next comment, I think this is a good spot for me to play this video. I made a major announcement on day 1 of the draft. And I'm going to keep playing this back. Like I told y'all going to see this a million times. So that y'all know what's going on. Your man Louie T is coming outside. This was the major announcement that I released on Thursday. I've played it back since on Friday and Saturday, or on Friday, and now I'm playing it back again today on Saturday. Take a listen as to what the big announcement was.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T, with a major announcement. I promised you a major announcement, and I'm going to deliver right now. Before I do, I want to thank each and every single one of you for making this channel, this brand, what it has become. Without you, none of this exists. The time, the energy, the effort, the resources you poured into the Louie T Network has brought us to this point, and I'm so happy about the progress that has been made, and I can't thank you guys enough. With that said, I've come so close many a times to doing something like this. Never any closer than 2020, and COVID hit, and then I went back to my comfortable abode in my comfort zone in the house. Well, now I'm coming outside. That's right. We're getting out of the house, and we're not just getting out of the house and doing anything. We're going on a trip, y'all. It's party time. Oh, it's party time. Yeah, we having a party. And you're invited. As we go to the Dominican Republic, Louie T Network Lifestyle presents the Dominican Republic edition. That's right. We're going to the DR and you're invited. And so, yes, it's an extravagant trip. The first one out of the gate. I'm hoping to make this an annual thing, not to the Dominican Republic, but just a trip in general where we get to kick it, chill, and have some fun with one another. But we're going to start this thing off with the DR. And so what this is all about and what this entails, here's all of the details. The location, obviously Dominican Republic. We're specifically going to Punta Cana. It's a resort, Hard Rock Cafe in Punta Cana, all inclusive. So that means all your food, your drinks, everything on the resort, all paid for. Once you get there, put your wallet away. Let's have some fun, right? Dates, June 26th through the 30th. In 2025, so a year from now, right? Roughly 14 months or so. Registration is $295 per person. But if you get in on the early bird special, you'll save yourself $100. It's $195. Early bird registration is through May 31st, 2024. So essentially you have a month to get in on the early registration before it kicks up to $295. Now, keep this in mind. Registration is non-refundable. So before you invest a single penny, make sure this is what you want to do, because once you pay money, you can't get it back. Trip activities, we're going to get into some of everything, but the thing I'm looking forward to the most is the meet and greet and the convo with Louie T. Now, the convo with Louie T is a la carte. It is not included with the trip, but the meet and greet, the excursion, they got a ton of activities on the resort. Laser tag. Look, I'm a big kid. Laser tag, bowling. If you want the smoke on the lanes, let me know. All right. There's so many things we can get into, and I'm looking forward to doing that. But I'm most looking forward to meeting you guys. The meet and greet is what I can't wait to have happen. Travel. You can book your own travel, or you can go through our travel agent. She's awesome, and she'll take care of you and make sure that everything, like I said, is going to be top notch and first rate. Ground transportation, speaking of top notch and first rate, is included in the trip. So we're going to get you to and from the resort. You don't have to worry about any of that. We'll make sure that you're taken care of. And your room deposit is $100 per person. And again, much like the registration, it is non-refundable. So make sure this is what you want to do before you spend a single cent, right? Trip is only limited, though, to 50 spots. So, again, first come, first serve basis. The trip does not have to be paid in full until April of 2025. So, essentially, you have a calendar year to get all of your payments in and pay for the trip in full. So, that is the meat and potatoes of this trip. The link to register, all right, the link to registration is in the description of this video. I'll also drop that link in the comment section, and you guys can have at it. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys. And I've been talking about getting out of the house and going outside. Well, I'm going outside. The question now is, will you be there?
So I don't know if y'all saw this or not. Just so you know, the link to the registration is in the description of this video, and I'll drop it in the comment section too as well, so that you have it. So if you want to access that, you can. Did y'all see we signed Sam Hartman as a UDFA, as a priority free agent? So Washington adds another quarterback, another arm for camp. We'll see if that, shakes up anything with the quarterbacks, because he said we were going to camp with 4. That gives us 5, right? We had all these veteran guys, and they had signed I don't know why I keep forgetting the quarterback's name, but we hopefully he takes Jake Fromm's spot. Get Jake Fromm the hell out of here. What the hell is he still doing here anyway, right? Get his ass out of here. Let Sam Hartman take his spot, and let's proceed, right? Anyway, I digress. DMV Bay thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, seriously, is the O-line now vastly improved? We don't know, right? That's a fair question. We don't know. It's different, right? They're not running it back with the group from last year with minimal changes and expecting different results. So we'll see, right? We picked no true right or left tackle, and we just have the free agents, what's left over from last year. So again, we have guys that we drafted last year that we didn't play. We don't even know if they can or can't play. So you don't even know if those guys are any good or not. So they're like free agent acquisition. They're like draft picks in a sense, because we don't know what they're capable of. We don't know what Ricky Stromberg can or can't do. Charles Leno Jr. said Ricky Stromberg can play. He's like, yo, when they get on the field, they're going to see that this guy can play. Well, we'll see. They don't know. We don't know if they can play or not. So this is the thing I like. They didn't come in here and say, all right, like when Ron got here, they turned over the roster, but they also kind of took a wait and see approach. Like, let's just see what we got. Like, we don't really know what we got, but they turned over the roster. They did a lot of what Adam Peters did, but they didn't release as many guys, but they brought in a bunch of free agents, if you recall. This year, or this go round, they turned this roster upside down, and including the offensive line. We have one holdover from last year's O-line. So if you thought the O-line stunk last year, at least they're making wholesale changes. They're not running shit back other than Sam Cosmi, who was the one guy that was any good on the offensive line last year. So yeah, you should have concerns. I don't think that that's unreasonable to have concerns about the offensive line. But you're going to have a new starting right tackle. You're going to have a new starting left tackle. You're going to have a new starting center. You're going to have a new starting right guard, left guard. So 4 out of the 5 positions are going to be new all over again. And so it was the same way last year. I think 4 out of the 5 positions were new last year. Some of them were just reshuffling of pieces. No. Yeah, because Cosmi wasn't the right guard last year going in the prior year. He was the tackle. So he was new, even though he was on the line, he was in a different position. Leno was the only holdover from the year prior playing the same position. So it's going to be similar in that, but we're going to have all new pieces. So it's a big question mark. My guess is that it's going to be better. Now, I still worry about O-line Bobby Johnson. Like, do we actually have a teacher? Do we have a coach that's going to get the most out of these guys? I worry about him. If you ask me the one thing we've done this offseason that I look and I go, I don't know about this. I'm going to trust y'all, but a little skeptical. It's O-line Bobby Johnson. It's O-line Bobby Johnson. We'll see. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, unfair comparison. Maybe, but Newton gives me future John Randall vibes. Off the mark? Yeah, it's different from this. Like, John Randall was really small. He was a much smaller guy. Like, when you think of John Randall, you think of guys like Aaron Donald, or you think about the defensive tackle that the Buccaneers took in the first round last year out of Pitt. I can't remember his name. Cansey, Kalijah Cansey. You think of guys like that that are undersized technically for the position. Newton's is a pretty, good size kid. Like, you expect him to do what he's doing, but he's doing it at a size that most NFL defensive tackles kind of, hover around. So, and he doesn't have the quickness and that kind of stuff that John Randall had. Like, John Randall was next level. Again, similar to Aaron Donald and what I saw from Kalijah Cansey coming out of Pitt. It was just elite quickness. He's not that, but he's got, he's got tools, right? He searches out edges. He uses his hands well to defeat blocks. And then, like I said, when he seeks out that edge, he uses his hands to defeat the block and turn that corner and get around that edge and flatten to the quarterback or get to the quarterback. He's got great pursuit. And so there's a quickness there for his size, but it's not on the level of a John Randall or an Aaron Donald. So yeah, I think that's a little bit, it's a different body type, different type of game, but I'm hoping he has similar results and impact, right? That's the hope. William Rogers, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. William Rogers Jr., thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, good teams use free agents to fill needs so that you can draft best player available in the draft. There has been a talent deficit for decades. So the mantra for me has always been free agency is there to supplement your roster. The draft is where you build your roster. You build through the draft, you supplement through free agency. Okay. If you do it in any other way, then you're building a roster that's built as a house of cards. And at any point, it can collapse. The foundation of what you do as an organization should always be through the draft, because you can't replicate young, financially advantageous labor, right? Young guys who don't cost as much, who are cost effective, coming in to help your football team. That is what keeps you alive and thriving and puts you in a position to compete every year. You know, obviously having a quarterback is at the top of the list, but that's how you stay relevant, is by drafting young, good football players. And then you fill in the gaps with free agency. Of course, you pay the guys that deserve to be paid, and then you fill in the gaps with free agency. And to your point, there's been a deficit here because we haven't drafted well. And I've pointed that out. I've talked about how many years of, you know, first and second and third round picks that aren't here that should still be here right now helping this team. Outside of Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, and Terry McLaurin, there are no draft picks from the last 6 drafts still here contributing on this football team. That shouldn't be the case. Like, every guy that's here either just got here 2-3 years ago or just got here this year. Like, we don't have a bunch of holdovers. It's Tressway, it's Daron Payne, it's Jonathan Allen, it's Terry McLaurin, and it's Jeremy Reeves. Those are the veteran players that have been here. Everybody else either just got here or has been here for 2-3 years and is still on a rookie contract. So our inability to draft guys that were worthy of a second contract has been our downfall. Why we are a mediocre organization and have been, coupled with the fact that we don't have a quarterback. Hopefully all of that is about to change. That's the prevailing thought, is that all of that is about to change. Fat American, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, yo, he said, you got what I need, but you say he's just a friend, Oh, baby, you. Sorry, Lou, I'm in my feelings, bro. Don't be sorry. Be careful, as a wise man once told me. Ho, don't be sorry. Be careful. Just don't be sorry. Be careful. It's okay. Q Dog, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Q Dog writes, if we get 8+ wins, you have to bring back Ramon. I mean, so I already told y'all I sacrificed Ramon a long time ago for the greater good. He's no longer with us, right? But what he did in sacrificing himself was he put me in a position to have the head full of hair that I have now. But it didn't go in vain. And I love the fact that his legacy still lives on to this day. The fact that you just brought him up and people bring him up all the time. I'm glad that his legacy lives on to this day. And as long as y'all keep, just like Sean Taylor, as long as you keep bringing him up, his legacy will never die. So shout out to you, Q Dog, for bringing up Ramon. Brian Hutchison, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, mark my words, Lou. A lot of people are down on Forbes. He's going to have a breakout year this year. Biggest winner from the new regime. Realistic is comeback player of the year. Dream is defensive player of the year. I have confidence in him too. Now, my confidence isn't the same as yours. My confidence is in the ability of this staff to get him to be the player that he was coming in, which he was super confident. Remember how excited we were about him when the Commanders went to play the Ravens in those joint practices and they had him mic'd up and he was out there mixing it up and tussling with the Ravens receivers. And, you know, he got cooked a couple times. He made some plays. And I was like, yo, this dude's a dog, right? You felt like he's got some dog in him. They quickly took any confidence that young man had and they buried it by the way they treated him and how they utilized him. Like it's almost as if they were trying to prove a point. I remember when Jay Gruden put Dwayne Haskins in against the Giants, knowing damn well Dwayne wasn't ready, right? Because a lot of people were saying put him out there. So Jay made a point to show everybody he ain't ready, right? He put him out there. Dwayne looked awful, threw a bunch of picks. We lost the game. The defense picked off Daniel Jones like 9 times, and we still lost by like 2 scores because our offense was so trifling with Dwayne Haskins. We couldn't even run a play. We had like 2-3 delayed games. We wasted like 2-3 timeouts. It was awful. And it was Jay's way of proving a point. He's not ready. Shut up. Stop asking me about Dwayne Haskins. I felt like it's almost like, but Jay he never wanted Dwayne Haskins. You know, Daniel Snyder forced Haskins on him. The shit that was crazy about last year in Emmanuel Forbes is like, this was your dude. and you're embarrassing him by how you're treating him. Like, you're putting him on A.J. Brown knowing he can't check this man and he's getting cooked. And then after he gets cooked, you're like, hey, you trash. We're going to sit you down. And then you don't play him. And now you relegate him to like it was just crazy how they treated him. Like, he got cooked by A.J. Brown. We had the turnaround the following week, quick turnaround against the Bears. They sat him down, you know, treated him like shit. And then they're going to put him out there against DJ Moore. And, of course, DJ Moore cooked him. And I'm like, where's the psychological sense? Like, you can switch sides with your corner. Like, you could tell, all right, while he's in the game, Kendall, you're going to follow around, you know, DJ Moore. But DJ primarily plays on the left side. So, like, let's put Kendall on that side and make sure that Emmanuel doesn't get any smoke. Let him check, you know, whoever's opposite of DJ Moore. I think it was Darnell Mooney. Let him check him. Put him out there and let DJ Moore go to work on him. And I'm just like, do you want this man to fail? They're going to take better care of him. I think they're going to coach him up. They're going to put him in better positions to succeed. And I do think a lot of people are down on him. I think he's going to have a really strong second campaign. And when Adam Peters was talking about guys not having good rookie seasons and then playing really well in their second season, I think he was kind of alluding to what could potentially happen with a guy like Emmanuel Forbes Jr. So we'll see what happens. Mr. Pink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Quiznos died because of the commercial. I don't remember what the commercial was for Quiznos. I don't know if I don't even remember a Quiznos commercial. I just remember that shit was bomb. That's all I remember. In my past life, when I was a grass seed vendor, I would work in Williamsburg, and they had a Quiznos and a tropical smoothie right next to each other. Or was the Quiznos there, and then they closed the Quiznos and they opened up a tropical smoothie? I think that's what it was. but it was right by the Home Depot. And I would always make it a point of emphasis, like, I'm stopping at Quiznos while I'm up here, right? Because at that time, it was only like 6 Quiznos in the entire 80-mile radius of where I was living at the time. Like, Quiznos were dying at a rapid rate. And so this was one of the few Quiznos that was left. Man, that shit was bomb. Subway is whack to me. If you're talking about sub places, I got out of the sub game before like Jersey Mike's and stuff like that made it down this way. I got out of the sub game and became a vegan before I could eat at some of those other places. But I think I had Jersey Mike's once before. Or no, that was Firehouse subs. I had Firehouse twice. Never had Jersey Mike's. It was all right. Firehouse was all right. I wasn't impressed, right? You know, it was like Subway. It didn't move me at all. It didn't move the needle. We had a Zeros. I grew up in Norfolk, so we had a Zeros right on the corner of Princess Anne. We used to bust Zeros down. We used to bust the Zeros down. I don't even know. I don't think that Zeros is there anymore, but it was there for a very long time. We used to bust that down, but I still put Quiznos ahead of all of them. But anyway, I digress. Rissy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, our line isn't as bad as people make them seem. We have good pieces. We signed a few free agents and Brandon. We can make something shake. EB's play calls and Sam also did them no favors. Stallworth, offensive tackle, 2025 first round. I don't know if we'll need a tackle in the first round or not next year. My guess is probably so, right? Because even if, say, you go into the season with Cornelius Lucas starting at right tackle. Let's say you do that. He's on a 1-year contract. You brought him back for 1 year. The likelihood is you're going to have to replace him. So that might be the most pressing need next year. I don't know if it will or not, but we'll see. I don't know what the crop of tackles will look like. I don't know what position we'll be in, you know, where we'll be drafting. My guess is we'll be somewhere in that fringe playoff spot, you know, 7, 8 wins. If you're in that neighborhood, 6, 7, 8 wins. 6 will get you closer to the top 10. 7 gets you towards the middle. 8 gets you hovering around the playoffs. So you'll be in that 18, 19, 20 range if you do that. If you go 7 wins, you're somewhere in that 13, 14, 15 range. If you go 6 wins, now you're hovering around top 10. Now you're 12, 11, 10-ish. So we'll see what the next year's draft. I don't think it's going to be as strong of a quarterback draft class. So you're not going to have 6 guys in the first round, so it could push tackles up. But you never know, right? Who knew that we'd have 6 quarterbacks coming out this year, and the draft class would be as strong as it ended up being. So right now, everybody's like, it's just Shador and the kid from Texas. Like, those are the 2 quarterbacks that anybody really thinks has a chance to be any good. We'll see. I agree with you about the offensive line, but here's the thing. You say the offensive line wasn't as bad last year, but there's only one guy as a holdover from that group. So that's starting. So while we don't think it was as bad, the numbers are what they are, and changes have been made. Wholesale changes have been made. So now we'll see what those wholesale changes produce, right? Shit out of luck. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Shit out of luck writes, we should set up a surprise trip to DR in 2025. Good one. Good one. Hopefully, you'll be there. Ethan Dykes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ethan writes, by size at cornerback, I meant weight. Oh, okay. You're talking about weight. We got to defend AJ. Yeah. So Michael Davis he's a solid size corner. We don't have a 205-pound corner. If that's what you're looking for, we don't have it. So Kendall Fuller is probably a $195, and he does just fine against AJ Brown. Remember, he locked AJ's ass up that night we went to Philadelphia and won that game. Locked him up. And he had success against him. The guy that would absolutely torch us was Devontae Smith. That's the guy that scares me half to death. You know, AJ went off last year because they took advantage of a rookie. But when Kendall would be on him, crickets. Even Juice had a little bit of success against AJ. But they would always find that matchup when we get the rookie on him and they torch him. Devontae, it didn't matter who was guarding him, including Kendall. We were getting work. So he scares me more than AJ. I'm going to be honest with you. It is what it is. He scares me way more than AJ Brown does. Will Diggs, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, thanks for all the quality content that you consistently put out for us. I appreciate you for supporting all of the content that I put out. Do you see any similarities between Brock Purdy and JD5? Are there any UD rookies that we should target? I think that all the positions that we talked about, they're going to bring in some of those positions. Like, I think they're I wouldn't be shocked if there's a undrafted running back that they bring in. I wouldn't be shocked. They've already brought in an undrafted quarterback. I talked about Sam Hartman already. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought in an undrafted corner or two. If you ask me what position do you think they're going to bring in the most undrafted players at, I'd say corner right now, because we really don't have like that's the one position defensively that you worry about, and we don't have a ton of depth there either. So an undrafted dude could make this roster. Like, there are not many undrafted guys on offense where you go, hey, he got a shot. It ain't no space at tight end. It ain't no space at receiver. It ain't no space on the offensive line. We got a bunch of stuff on the offensive line. We don't know how good any of it is. We just know we got a bunch of shit. We've been collecting pieces for years. We just got to figure out how to utilize them all. But running back is one position you could add undrafted running back, and he come in and make some noise and end up making the football team. But on the defensive side, it's corner where you go, yo. I mean, I could see them bringing in 3 undrafted corners, and 1 or 2 of those dudes making the squad. Like, it's that questionable at corner right now. I mean, think about it from this perspective. You had 3 corners going into this process. And again, I'm aware that they signed Noah Igbenogany. I'm aware that they signed James Pierre. I'm aware that they brought in Michael Davis. I'm aware of all these things. But going into the process, I looked at Noah Igbenogany, Michael Davis, Benjamin St-Juste, and Emmanuel Forbes Jr. as the corners that were probably going to be on this team. That's 4 dudes. And even though Igbenogany isn't guaranteed anything, right? He just felt like a guy that Dan Quinn trusts because of him being with him in Dallas last year. He just felt like more of a sure thing, right? Which there's no such thing when you're not really contributing on the defensive side. There's no such thing when you're just a special teams guy, unless you're an all-pro Rebo and you're an all-pro or you're Tress Way. But adding Mike Sainristil gives you another guy that's going to be here, clearly. And looking at what they've done in free agency, you could see a path in which they feel okay about what they've done. But I still think that's a position where they go, hey, we got competition here, man. If you can play some special teams and we like you and think you got a chance defensively to impact this team, hey, you in. So it'll be interesting. No, I don't see any similarities between Brock Purdy and JD5. None whatsoever. One went the very last pick in the draft Mr. Irrelevant. The other went second overall. One was a Heisman Trophy winner. The other, played maybe 3 or 4 years at Iowa State. It was solid, but, wasn't earth-shattering by any stretch of the imagination. Brock Purdy's a solid athlete. I think he doesn't get enough credit for the athlete that he is. Jaden Daniels is a tremendous athlete. I think their arm talent is similar, but I think JD still got stronger arm than Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's arm is not strong at all, but he throws with timing and rhythm, and he's accurate. And that counts for something, right? So I think their games are totally different. Totally different. Quayface 15025. Stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Mob, you know what to do. Show Quayface some love. Open those arms wide and long. Pause. And show Quayface what it's like to be a member of this prestigious group. Welcome to the squad. Quayface. Wilfredo Elias. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Wilfredo Elias writes, clear what a commander looks like. Fast and violent. They said we arriving violently to the scene. Chef Pete cooked up a 5-course, 5-star meal, and it's smelling oh so delicious. Hashtag raise hell. It's delicioso. I already told y'all yesterday, man. He was flambeing this stuff, boy. And I was watching him get busy over here on this grill, man. And I said, man, this looks really good. This looks really good, man. He's like, you think this is good? Wait till you see what I do tomorrow, right? And then we saw what he did on day 2. And then he's like, you think this is good? I'm not finished yet. And then he finished off the draft the way he did today, and you go. And then he slides the plate in front of you, and the steam is coming off of it, and you're like, this looks great. It smells excellent. I'm ready to dig in. I love it. Want more of it. 16 Double Dot. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, thank you for everything you do, Lou. Love our draft. Thank you for everything you do, all the support that you provide the Louie T Network. And I love our draft as well. I think this is a really good draft start to finish. Even the 7th round pick, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, not going to help you this year. Developmental prospect, but you see how he could, I think he's got more upside than KJ Henry and Andre Jones Jr. I'll just say that. I'll just say that. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris, writes, hey, Lou, hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. And thank you for your generosity as always. Says 2 questions. 1, how have your expectations for this season with the success of this draft changed? And 2, what player are you happiest about outside of Daniels and concerned about that they drafted? So your first question, to answer your first question, I've already said that this draft has raised my level of expectation from a win standpoint from the 5 to 7 that I was projecting before the draft to 6 to 8. And I'm leaning towards that 8 side more so than the 6 side, right? But it's still 7 for me. I'm not going to go too much higher than that because it's a lot of new, moving parts. And I think this defense is going to keep us in games. And the difference maker will probably be, are we creating turnovers? Are we taking care of the football? Are we scoring in the red zone? How is Jaden Daniels playing? Are we running the football? If the defense is doing what they need to do, we'll have a chance. And I haven't said this in a very long time, but I fully expect the defense to be really good. Like, we're going to have fun watching our defense. I can tell you this. I can't speak for anybody else out there. I'm most nervous when the defense is on the field because I have zero confidence in their ability to get stops. I've always felt that way about our defense. I haven't felt confident. Like, there was once upon a time where I would be more nervous when the offense was on the field than the defense was on the field. I am now full-blown paranoid when the defense is on the field because I expect them to give up points. And it's been this way for a very long time. Even when we were quote-unquote good in 2020, quote-unquote good in 2022, I was nervous every time the other team's offense had the ball because I never had confidence in our defense. Even though our offense was trash. Worst case scenario, they're going to punt. That's always was my mindset, even though this year, Sam was liable to throw a pick six. You didn't know if you were going to just punt the ball. But this is going to be the first year in a very long time. You probably got to go back to like 05, 04, 05, maybe 07, in that range time frame, where I was more comfortable and confident when the defense was on the field than the offense. I'm going to be more comfortable this year when the defense is on the field than when the offense is on the field. I expect this defense to be lights out. I do. And the only thing that's stopping me from like going over the top about this is the secondary. Is the secondary. The boundary corners in particular. But even still, I expect Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn not only to coach these boys up, but to scheme this shit up, to get it to where, hey, you still gonna have to figure out how the hell you're gonna get it to these dudes. You better have a quick passing game going on because we get into your quarterback. We gonna make shit difficult. I hope that JD and company make me feel good about when the offense is on the field. Because right now, I'm gonna be nervous when they're on the field. But with that said, I expect the defense to give us a chance, and so I've raised the number. This is a tremendous draft. I feel good about it. From 5 to 7 wins to 6 to 8. As far as what player am I happiest about and most concerned about, this one's pretty easy for me. So I told you it was 1A, 1B with the Sainristil and Johnny Newton picks. Like, those guys are studs. But if you put a gun to my head, you said, no, you can't go 1A, 1B. It'd be Newton because he was a first-round pick. But Sainristil, to me, is the best nickel. You got the best player at a position in the draft. Nickel is a specific position. I know it's under the cornerback umbrella, but a nickel corner is so much different than a boundary corner. And he's the best nickel in this draft, if you ask me. So those two, to me, are just so good. And those picks stand out to me. And then it's easy to pick and probe and prod at the Brandon Coleman pick. It's low-hanging fruit, but we got to see him do it, right? We got college tape, and you got to see him do it a little bit, but can he do it at an NFL level consistently? We'll see. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. My guy Chris writes, hey, Lou, 3 questions. 1, which team outside of ours improved the most in the NFC and why? What are your thoughts on the possible 18-game regular season and 2 preseason games? And how would you feel if the Super Bowl was played on President's Day weekend? So I'm going to answer these in reverse order this time. I've been advocating for the Super Bowl to be played on President's Day weekend for years, probably at least a decade now. It doesn't make any sense that people should have to go to work the day after. The Super Bowl is almost like a national holiday. More people watch the Super Bowl than any other event on television today. Period. End of discussion. People like my aunt, for instance, she's she's a great representation of what the Super Bowl does. My aunt called me the day before the Super Bowl this year when it was Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers. And I talked to my aunt and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch the Super Bowl. She said, who you going for? Because she knows what I do. And she said, who you going for? And I told her I don't have a dog in the fight. I just want to see a good game. And she's like, well, I'm rooting for the 49ers. I'm tired of the damn Chiefs winning, yada, yada. So you would think she watched football with the statement she made. She said, and then I was like, oh yeah. So now I'm curious. Like now I'm gonna press her a bit now because you coming at me like you got knowledge and shit. So now I'm about to try you, right? So why you want the Chiefs to win? I mean, why you want the Chiefs to lose so bad outside of the fact that they, won the Super Bowl last year? And she's like, I ain't watched no games this year. I just tired of the Chiefs winning. That's all I was trying to get to the root of. The Super Bowl brings people out that don't normally watch the game, right? So what I'm telling you is that next day, and it's a party. Stores change up the way they display things. It's a cash cow. People are ordering pizza. People are ordering wings. People are buying chips. People are buying beer and all kinds of it's a big party. Nobody should have to go to work the next day after that. I'm not telling you to declare the day after the Super Bowl a national holiday. Put it. It's right there. It's within range. It used to be the last week of January. But since they pushed the season out, now you're into February. Now you're right within striking distance. You've added a 17th game. So you're right there. Just make it the weekend of President's Day weekend so that we're off on that Monday and everybody's happy. There was even a conversation about 7 years ago. Should the Super Bowl be played on a Saturday? It became that bad. So the day that the most people would call out from work was the day after the Super Bowl. So why continue having this be an issue when you can just solve it by having it be President's Day weekend? So that's always been something that I've advocated for. As far as 18-game regular season, I talked about this when they made the 17-game season. Before the 17-game season became a thing, when we were talking about them potentially moving to 17, I said, y'all know this is just a precursor to get to 18, right? I was like, we're going to be on 17 for 3 or 4 years before they get to 18. We were at 16 forever, right? Forever. I said 17 is a mere formality to get to 18. It's going to be so quick that you're going to forget that there was ever even 17. Because once we get to 18, we're going to stay at 18 for a very long time. A very long time. Until the NFL caps out from a financial standpoint, and now they got to generate more revenue, and that's when they're going to try to think about adding the 19th game, which is crazy, right? But we're going to get to a point where it's going to turn into college football, and there will be no preseason. No preseason. Highly unlikely right now, but wait till they start when they cap out at the amount of money that they're making, and now they got to find a way to create new revenue. You'll be surprised. But we're gonna stay at 18 for a while. But 17 always felt like a stepping stone to get to 18. So I'm not shocked by that. In the preseason, nobody likes the preseason. Nobody. The utter disrespect that has been shown towards the preseason the last 3 years or so has led us to where we're going, which is reducing the preseason to next to nothing. So now it's 3 games. You make an 18-game season, it'll be 2 games. Make a 19-game season, it'll be 1 game. Get to 20 games a season, and it'll be no preseason games. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but we'll be at 18 for a while. So, and then which team outside of ours improved the most in the NFC? I'd have to look at all of the picks. I think Chicago has to be near the top of the list, though. I mean, they've had a sensational offseason. They've done everything the right way, in my estimation. I think I know at one point, I don't know what Arizona did today, but I know at one point, I remember saying yesterday, man, Arizona's having a pretty impressive draft, right? I don't think their free agency class was all that impressive, though. but their draft was pretty good. So I also want to take a look at Carolina. I thought they did some really good things. I thought they overspent on the offensive line, but they made it a point of emphasis to try to get better up front to protect Bryce Young. They've added weapons around him via the draft. They traded for Deontay Johnson, which I loved. I didn't love that they gave up Dante Jackson. I love that for the Steelers, but they've done a really good job of trying to give Bryce Young a chance to succeed. But I think it's Chicago. I think it's Chicago right now. Pit Fight Entertainment. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Pit Fight Entertainment writes, learned what a commander was. I thoroughly enjoyed this weekend. Wouldn't have changed a thing about our draft. I think, and you're the second person to say we're identifying what a commander is. And when's the last time we've been able to say what a Redskin, a football team, or a commander look like? When's the last time that conversation even came up other than us bitching about not knowing what that looks like? The fact that you're leaving the draft knowing what kind of players they're looking for speaks volumes about the shift in the mindset of what they're trying to build here. I mean, that conversation is, to me, a separate conversation. We can have a conversation about what that entails, what it means, and what that could ultimately mean for us as fans, knowing what type of player they're going after. It's so big to a stat. Like, who didn't think Xavier Worthy was going to end up in Kansas City? Who didn't think that, right? You know why? Because they have a type. There's a certain type of player that you look at and you say, that guy's a chief. Who didn't look at Xavier Worthy and say, he's a chief? We all did. That didn't surprise anybody when he went to Kansas City because they got a type. We're hoping to develop one over time. Commander 17. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Commander 17 writes, everyone in that DB room is not going to be there. Just signed 3 or 4 more undrafted DBs, 1 preferred. New day in DC. Love it, including 1 preferred. Like I said, if you ask, and I didn't know any of that information, right? The only thing I knew was we signed Sam Hartman. But I told y'all, what I say? If there's one position, if there's one group in the on the team right now that you look at and say, hey, some undrafted dudes could step in there and ruffle some feathers and mix some shit up, it's in the secondary. It's in the secondary. More so the cornerback position. Because James Pierre and Noah Igbenogany don't have to be here. If you're here primarily for your special teams prowess, we can find a young boy who is going to cost even less than you already cost, who will have the rights to for the next 4 years, for pennies on the dollar, who could also possibly contribute defensively. If that's you out of here, bro. You out of here. If all things are equal, the undrafted guy is going to get the nod over the veteran. So I'm not shocked by that. Big money, Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Shout out to my guy, Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the generosity. Greatly appreciate you as always. Who writes? Shout out to you, Lou. Real talk. Thank you for everything. Likewise, man. I tell you guys all the time, man. This doesn't exist without you guys. So thank every single one of you for continuing to help the Louie T Network thrive and not only survive, but thrive, right? Peace and love, homie. Appreciate you. Likewise. And it's always good to hear from you, man. Glad to have you and Luck back in the saddle where y'all belong, man. It hits different when y'all here, right? Nicholas Gregory. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, sup, Lou? What up, Nick? Don't know if you saw, you received some love on the Commanders subreddit today. You deserve it, bro. Nah, I didn't see it. Okay, I'm about to show my age. I don't even know what the Commanders subreddit is. I'm assuming it's some kind of like group, like a Facebook group or something. I know what Reddit is. I'm not that old, but what is a subreddit? Because I'm literal, so I'm like, so is that under Reddit? What is a sub? Like, is it like a subcategory? Is it something like? I'm assuming it's just like you're on Reddit and then you have a specialized Reddit category, and I'm assuming this is a Commanders one. And I don't know how hard it is to get on a subreddit, but I'm appreciative of every and anything, right? So if that's a big deal, great. Thank you for acknowledging it, letting me know about it, and I'm happy that it happened. But I'm gonna just keep grinding, man. That's all I know how to do. I'm gonna just keep grinding. I appreciate it, Nicholas. Thank you so much. Ramallah Levy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Ramallah, thank you so much. Bucky Old Boots, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Bucky Old Boots writes, we can't do it all in 1 year, but these dudes up top are pretty damn smart. I dig it. LHU. I said this, I think yesterday, the day before that, and various times throughout the offseason. I think I talked about this when we were in the process of hiring the GM. And I think you can trace this all the way back, the origins of this probably to when we were getting towards the end of the regular season. And I said the biggest offseason, the second biggest offseason in franchise history is about to take place. And obviously the first offseason was that of Dan Snyder getting the hell out of here. So that was last offseason, right? This offseason, though, is massive because we were hiring our GM and he was going to set the table for everything that was going to take place. And I said that hire is going to be the biggest hire in this franchise's history and recent memory, right? They get Adam Peters and everything else has kind of fallen into place since then. And I talked about having adults in the building and real professionals and guys that actually know what the hell they're doing. And they showed it over the weekend. Some people had a problem with them trading back with the Eagles. I loved it. Pick up an additional second-round pick. Are you kidding me? The patience that they showed, they could have traded up to ensure that they got Giant. It almost backfired if the Falcons were, kind of thinking about it, instead of going and getting, Rook or Ro. We could have been out here talking about how disappointed we were. I would have been really disappointed, but we dodged a bullet and his patience paid off, right? Instead of having to give up something, he stayed pat right there at 36 and got what, he wanted to get at that pick, right? So I thought it was an excellent draft, getting their guys and kind of setting the tone for what's to come. And you can't do it all in 1 year. I've said that, and I think you just put it perfectly. You can't do it all in 1 year. And the expectation of doing that is unfair. So to your point, these are some smart guys, and they're going to fix as much as they can in year one, but there'll still be some holes on this roster. Guess what? You clean those up next year, and you put yourself in a position to try to make a push at the playoffs next year, I think. I know a lot of you want to do it this year. Hey, I'm all about it. I just don't see it happening. Next year, though, if Jaden Daniels looks the part, I'm going to be talking so much trash. It's ridiculous. Ramallah Levy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling it up. Who writes, or thank you for doubling it up. I think you're trying to get a comment in here and you're struggling. Hopefully you're able to get it in here because I know that thing is long gone by now. Ben Skeel, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ben Skeel writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Ben? It's definitely been a minute because you have a very unique name, and I remember it because I grew up with a kid named Daniel Steele. So when I hear Ben Skeel, it reminds me of my friend Daniel. So It's definitely been a minute. He says, hope your fam is doing well and all. Likewise, Ben. Want to feel old for a second? Humor me. Started watching you at 16 years old as a sophomore in high school. I just got my bachelor's yesterday. Time fly. Oh, shit. Yeah, that does make me feel old. God damn. You were a high school at 16. It just depends on when your birthday is. I think I got to high school. I think I was 13 when I got to high school, 13 or 14, because I graduated when I was 17. You were 16, you're probably like a sophomore or junior in high school. Just depends on how everything went for you. But Jesus, you probably were a junior. You said you were a sophomore in high school at 16. And now you got your bachelor's degree. Time does fly, man. I've been doing this for 12 years now, so that shouldn't surprise me. But just hearing it in those terms definitely makes me feel old. Definitely makes me feel old, man. Yikes. But I've had so much fun. Time flies when you're having fun. And that's probably why it's gone by so quickly. I'd have more fun if we win. I've had about as much fun as one can have while being miserable with the team's lack of success. But I think that's all about to change now. We'll see. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Red Wings 01 writes. I'm still in the Coleman is a guard until proven otherwise camp. I have issues with his footwork, but I also hear his 2022 tape is better. So I'll have to check. That's where I went. I went to 2022 because I too watched him in 2023 and thought he was a guard, right? So I went back to 2022 and he looked better in 2022 and he looked like a tackle. So I was actually like, this could work. Like I'm actually not as down on him now, right? And I already know he could play guard, but we didn't need a guard. We needed a tackle. And so the only thing that gives me pause is I go back to O-line Bobby Johnson. This is where you rely on coaching, and I don't know how good of an offensive line coach we have. Everybody tells me this guy sucks, and I try not to feed into that because just because he sucked with you doesn't mean he's going to suck with us. But that's like us looking at somebody and, you know, when the Packers got what's the name of the damn defensive coordinator that we had, that the Packers had? They just fired him last year. Jesus. What was his name? Why am I struggling with his name? I can see his goddamn face. Joe Barry. And it's like us being like, oh shit, Packers fan. Oh, Joe Barry sucks. Oh my God, you guys are in some trouble. This guy's awful, right? And the Packers fans looking at us like, we gonna see. Like, I mean, he was bad with y'all. That don't mean he's gonna be bad with us. It's the same thing. Like, we were adamant Joe Barry's gonna suck ass. Just like if Eric Bieniemy would have went somewhere this year, we'd be like, good luck for y'all. I hope you don't got a young quarterback because he gonna run his ass into the ground, right? That's how the team that, you know, that person just came from, that's how they're gonna feel. That's how the fan base is gonna feel. So the problem I have with it is both the Bills and the Giants fans are like, good luck with his ass. And I'm like, really? If it was just the Giants, if the Buffalo Bills fans would have been like, hey, he was straight with us, I'd have been like, cool, that's all I needed. But they was like, yo, we was ready for him to carry his ass when he left. And the Giants fans couldn't run him out of town fast enough. So I've got my doubts and my suspicions, right? But, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Or not double up. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Swaggy P, writes, not going to lie, I haven't been this impressed with the draft in a while. I'm excited for OTAs and the mini camps just to see how the rookies and new players look. Next stop, the NFL schedule. #raise hell. Yeah, I'm not a big OTAs guy. Like, people are gonna get excited. Yeah, we've gotten to the point now where the shit's out of control. We want everything reported on. So that's OTAs, mini camps, like that. That shit's, there's nothing you can glean from any of that. The only thing I ever got that was of substance from a mini camp or OTA was when Jack Del Rio told us, "Hey, look out for Defoe. He's having a strong offseason. He's having a strong, OTAs. We really like what we've seen in terms of growth from him." And it translated to the field in week 1 against Jacksonville, where he was arguably the best player on defense that day. Game clinching pick, a big pass breakup in the end zone that prevented a touchdown. He was all over it, forced a fumble that knocked the Jaguars like 8 yards back further on a field goal attempt that barely missed from like 37 yards out. He was the MVP of that first game in 2022. So he went on to have a stellar season where we felt really good about him going into 2023, and then obviously he got hurt. That's the only time where the offseason has really provided us with some shit where we went, damn, they told us he had a strong offseason and it translated. And the rest of this shit is trash, The next big thing for me is the schedule release. I'm dying to see who we play early, because what I used to be on was, let me get the tough stuff out of the way early and give me a chance late to get hot. Because when you trash, that's what you do, right? You start off slow and then you rev up the engine and then you finish. Like, I had been preconditioned as a fan to think that way, because the best seasons we've had over the last 20 years have all come in run form, other than 99. Is that even 20 years? That's not even 20 years. So I said it right. In the past 20 years, which is from 2004 to now, the best runs have all been late season runs. 05, 07, 2012, 2015, all late season runs, right? Even 2020 to a lesser degree, all late season runs. So that's all I've really ever known, right? Is the late season run. So yeah, stack me up with some trash teams towards the back end of the schedule. Let me get the hard ones out of the way. If I can find a way to navigate my way through that portion of the schedule at 3 and 4 or 3 and 5, and then get hot, we straight. I don't want that shit no more. I learned my lesson. I don't want to dig any holes. I'm looking for the easiest path, the path of least resistance, which is why I asked for Arizona week 1 last year, right? I wanted an easy team out of the gate. They gave it to us. We barely squeaked by. That should have been an omen of things to come. But then we went and did what we did on the road at Denver, and that changed my whole outlook on what this season could be. And then obviously we know what happened after that. But I would like to have a chance to get off to a fast start. I would like to have a chance to get off to a fast start. So I don't want to play any teams in the division week 1. I don't. This is Dan Quinn's first game. I don't care if it's on the road or at home. I prefer to be at home, but I just want to play a team that we can handle. I don't even remember what divisions we're playing yet. I just want a team that we can have a chance to beat week 1. Because this group needs to get off to a fast start, right? So, and get the easy games out. What I realized over time is get the easy ones out of the way first, because you don't know what that team's going to ultimately turn into, right? Who knew what the Texans were going to turn into last year? Who knew what the Bucks, even though the Bucks started off like 3-0 last year, who knew what the Bucks were going to turn into, right? Like, you just want to get the layup when it's there to be had. Like, don't wait. And then all of a sudden the Texans turn into what they turn into, and you get them in week 14. Like, us playing the Jets when we did, that was perfect, right? Because that's a tough team. You put them at the back, and they ended up being ass by the time we got there. The reverse of that is you take a bad team and you give them confidence, and by the time you get to them, now they're good. So just get them out the way while they're still trying to figure out if they're good or not. That's what I want, because we're one of those teams. We don't know if we're good or not. We don't have any confidence yet. You want to play us early while we're trying to figure the shit out. Well, I want to play a team that's even worse than us first so we can get some confidence. I'm dying to see this schedule and see how it plays out. We have a last place schedule, so we should have some cupcakes somewhere along the lines. And I'd like to get 1 or 2 of them in the first 4 weeks, if at all possible, right? Anyway, that's the next big thing for me is the schedule. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I'm told Coleman played through injury in 2023. So is BSJ our other boundary corner? Not sure how I feel about that. We'll see how it goes. So he's our backup. I think based off the tape last year, if they come in and institute Forbes as the starter, I think they signed Michael Davis to be the other starting corner, right? They signed him to be the other starting corner. I told you, and I expect him to be Ronald Darby from 2020. He's going to come in here and play well. I got more confidence in him than any of the other corners on this roster not named Mike Sainristil. So that goes to show you what I think about Mike Davis and what I think he's going to come in here and do. So I'm not worried about Benjamin St. Juste. He shouldn't see the field unless something happens. And I'm not speaking that shit into existence. Gear Cell 1. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Gear Cell 1 writes, great draft. Finally have adults running the franchise. Just saw Ron and EB crying and hugging at Potomac Mills Mall wearing custard yellow slacks with pinto green sandals and gray socks. Tragic. No yoga pants. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you. What's crazy is when Ron left here, I had no ill will towards him, but I was Ron fatigued. I was Ron'd out. And he's been on television. He's been talking about the number 2 overall pick, what he would do. I haven't listened to 1 second of Ron. I don't even want to hear his voice right now. He was walking through the airport in TMZ, stopped them and asked them a question. Somebody sent that to me. Somebody sent me him on NFL Live talking about. I haven't clicked on a single Ron Rivera video. You would think I have some animus towards this man, and I don't. I just was fatigued with Ronald. So him being at Potomac Mills Mall, first of all, who calls it Potomac Mills Mall? It's either Potomac Mills. Nobody calls it Potomac Mills Mall. But I get it. You have to make sure we know that you're talking about the mall. If you just said Potomac Mills, we would have just assumed you were talking about the mall. But anyway, I digress. Him and EB deserve each other. Isn't Euclid Ron's? No, Cal. Cal is his alma mater. I'm about to say, isn't Euclid his alma mater? It's Cal. I'm about to say he should go join him. You guys, you deserve each other. That shit you put us through last year, you deserve each other. Pit Fight Entertainment. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I'm feeling hashtag raise hell or raise hail, excuse me. Hashtag raise hail greater than hashtag HTTC. I don't know if it'll ever be better than HTTC. Or yes, I mean, no, I'm tripping. HTTR is what was the best. Yeah, it's better. Like HTTC was like a placeholder because you didn't have anything, right? And you kept changing things. We were the football team, so they had to come up with a hashtag for that. Then you were the Commanders, then you had to find a hashtag for that. And it was just easy to say hail to the Commanders, right? But I think this one, it feels right. Like if you're going to stick with Commanders, this feels like its own entity, right? You're not just stealing HTT will never be complete if it's not R. So this feels like something new, which is what you want. And I think a lot of people have gotten behind this raise hail. So I've seen that hashtag a lot here over the last weekend. Ramala Levy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. I'm so glad you got your comment in here. You've been trying. Ramala, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, we underestimate the power of infrastructure. J5. So I don't know if you're saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think you're saying it's a good thing because the infrastructure here is well put together. This is the best infrastructure we've seen probably since Gibbs 1.0, when it was a healthy relationship between Beathard and Gibbs. Like we haven't seen, and Charlie Casserly was Beathard's assistant. We haven't seen the infrastructure this airtight, rock solid since the 80s, right? It's been a mess ever since Gibbs 1.0 ended. So the infrastructure is so sturdy right now. So sturdy. And yes, that matters so much when you're talking about a young quarterback, because there's nothing more important for a young quarterback than stability. You're right about people underestimating that. So often people underestimate what a stable franchise can do for a young quarterback and what an unstable franchise can do to a young quarterback. And we've seen it time and time again, what an unstable organization will do to a young quarterback. Destroy him. Destroy him. I couldn't agree with you more. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wings writes, right, I forgot about Davis. Mathis or Ridgeway for you? Forgot about Davis. That one went over my head. Were we talking about something? Oh, yeah. Michael Davis. You're talking about the corner. You forgot about him. Okay. Yeah, he's starting. I don't think Benjamin St. Juste is starting. So, yeah. Mathis or Ridgeway for you? I mean, you spent the second round pick on Phil Mathis. From an upside perspective, he's probably got more than John Ridgeway. Ridgeway is more consistent, and I know what niche he's carved out for himself. And while Dallas didn't retain him and they cut him ultimately, maybe Dan Quinn has an affinity for John Ridgeway. He was drafted by the Cowboys after all. Like, I like guys who carve out a niche for themselves and declare what their role is in the league. Like, I know what Ridgeway ain't getting to the quarterback, but he's going to stop the run. I don't actually know what Fedarius Mathis does yet because he hasn't played enough football for me to know. And so at least I know what I'm getting out of Ridgeway. But again, we'll see what they decide to do. I'm a Ridgeway guy over Fedarius Mathis right now. Like, Big Phil hasn't stayed healthy. I can't even tell you, what he can do. Like, Phil Mathis doesn't have one play that stands out that you can remember. He doesn't have a single play. We got the Captain Insano play from John Ridgeway. Everybody remembers that shit. Even though it ended up being a penalty, you powerbombed a guy during a game. I mean, like, we all remember that. You can't recall one Phil Mathis play. Not one. So, yeah, I'd go with Ridgeway. And I just know what I'm getting out of him. But if Mathis stays healthy and he shows flashes, it's a no-brainer because he should have higher upside, should Mathis. Not because he's a second-round pick, because we overdrafted him. He wasn't really a second-round pick. He's probably more of a third or a fourth-round pick. But he went to Alabama, and he can play. He's not trash. I just don't think he's been able to showcase his skills because he hasn't been healthy. So, Jesus saves J316. Jesus saves J316. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I don't know if I'm late, but what's up, LT? If you just getting here, yeah, you pretty late. I can answer that for you if you just getting here. He says, I hope you had a blessed day or evening. Likewise. I have a question. Shoot. What do you think about Taylor Owens? I know he's not Sean Taylor. I don't know who Taylor Owens is. So I can't tell you what I think about him because I don't even know him. Should I know him? Apparently, if you're asking me about him and we didn't draft him, that means he went undrafted. If he went undrafted, he went undrafted for a reason. So again, there's this fixation a lot of times with people and undrafted players for some reason. I can't figure it out. Why people are so enamored with undrafted players. They went undrafted for a reason. Every blue moon, you'll have a guy that's undrafted come out of nowhere and make people regret not drafting him. It's 1 out of every 5,000 guys that go undrafted that does that. Like, I don't know how many undrafted players are in the Hall of Fame. It's not many. And there may be a few, but they're not many. And I think it's fun to find, unearth a gem and find a guy out of nowhere, but guys go undrafted for a reason. Like, scouting has never been more like, it's never been more expansive in the history of scouting. They have more coverage in more places. If you're good, they find you. We had Jalix Hunt from like Presbyterian Baptist Church get drafted in the 3rd round, man. Like, if you can play ball, they'll find you. Okay? Like, if a guy goes undrafted, it's usually a reason why he went undrafted. But if I need to find out who Taylor Owens is, I'll look him up and see what he's about. I have no reason to check out Taylor Owens right now. Did we sign him as an undrafted free agent? Is he a UDFA or something? If he is, based off of what happened with Amani Rodgers, I won't be disrespectful to UDFAs anymore. And we're in the season of the UDFA now because of where the roster is. A UDFA can easily make this team depending on what position he plays. So I won't be disrespectful and just dismiss UDFAs like I used to. So if he's a UDFA and we signed him, I'll take a look. I'll take a look-see. But I have no idea who he is. Sorry. Wish I could give you more. Ramala Levy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ramala writes, we will also have packages with Bama, Wall, and Newton. Absolutely. And Adam Peters talked about that in his presser yesterday, about how they, asked Dan Quinn, like, bro, are you going to be able to get this man on the field? Quinn's like, are you kidding me? Hell yeah. Draft this guy. What are you talking about? Yeah, we can make this work. You don't pass up talents like that, and Newton very quickly, let me just tell you like this, very quickly, he's going to make you he's going to remind you or make you forget, whichever side of the fence you're on. He's going to remind you very quickly why you were okay with us not taking a tackle, which you should have been, because as I said already, the value wasn't at tackle at that time of the draft, right? 8 guys went in the first round. There was no tackles that fit in that upper portion of the second round. It just wasn't any value there. But he'll quickly remind anybody that was, kind of on the fence, or he will sway those who felt like we should have quickly this season with how he plays. You'll quickly realize, oh, shit, we got us a dog. They did the right thing. I think that you're going to find that out real quick. Journey Reed, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Journey Reed writes, precisely, Lou, held us down all draft and free agency and offseason. Super excited for this next chapter of Washington football. #MOBBSQUAD. I appreciate you, Journey, continuing to support and being here for all of it. And I always emphasize, hey, stick with me. I'm not always right, but I never lead you astray, right? What I've proven, I think I've built up enough equity with y'all now over the last 2 drafts in particular, that when I put out a mock draft pertaining to this team, you should at least give it a look-see. You don't have to agree with my decisions, but I'm going to get at least 4 of them bitches right. That's 2 years in a row I got 4 picks right, okay? You know how hard it is to get picks right? Like, it's one thing, and I got them right early in the draft last year, so Yeah, I still felt good. I wore it as a badge of honor, you know, getting Ricky Stromberg and the first round pick wasn't hard last year because we had dodos. So we, as bad as I wanted Christian Gonzalez, I knew they were going to take Forbes. So that wasn't hard. But, you know, predicting Ricky Stromberg and Quan Martin last year, I wore that as a badge of honor, right? To get dudes in the 5th and the 7th round, not to mention a second round pick that most people didn't even have on our radar, man, this one felt really good. So if nothing else, rock with the kid. Stick with me a little bit. I'm going to show you a thing or two, man, right? And you know, I'm going to pat myself in the back. I'm going to toot my own horn. Toot, toot. You know I'm going to toot my own horn. I'll be the first to tell you I was wrong, like I told you tonight. I told y'all we were getting Tyrese Knight if he was there in the 5th round, and I was flat out wrong. And I made sure I let y'all know I was flat out wrong about that. But when it comes time to toot my horn, toot, toot, I'm going to toot it. I appreciate you, Journey. McCready, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. McCready, it's been a while, man. Feels like it's been a while. Who writes, hey, Lou, just got back from MCRD PI after being in the dark for 3.5 months. I knew it felt like a while, man. It felt like a long time, McCready. Glad to have you back, man. Hope you're safe and sound. He says, I'm super excited to see all the moves this team has made. Hopefully we can be competitive this next year. Got a lot to catch up on. Thanks for the catalog. Oh, well, outside of day 2 of free agency, which my dumb numbnut self deleted, everything's there for you, man. I've chronicled everything, every move that's been made. Essentially, if you just watch the videos, you'll hear about them. Again, except for day 2, I'm still kicking myself over deleting day 2 of free agency. I don't know how I managed to do some stupid shit like that, but I did. But everything else is there. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. So glad to have you back in the fold. And you're going to be really, really happy, pleasantly surprised with all that has transpired in your absence. So we got nothing going on over the next 2 months, essentially, between now and training camp. So take your time, you know, go through the catalog with a fine-tooth comb. Don't skip over anything because it ain't going to be a ton of content. You know, now people are going to be making shit up now. That's the type of season we about to be in. Anyway, I digress. Sean Roberts, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Sean Roberts writes, looks like they got dogs for the defense. Yeah, we got dogs in them, right? We definitely got some dogs. And that's why most of us feel like, if nothing else, the defense is going to give us a shot. Not only with the personnel that we have, but I think it's more about the coaching staff and the people calling the plays and putting these players in position that we have the utmost confidence in. The personnel is an extension of those guys, but it really starts with the coaching staff. We feel good about them. Real good. And I think that's the confidence that kind of bleeds over into the roster, if you will. So that was the last super chat. I just wanted to remind everyone, I'm going to be on Bleacher Report tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're not doing anything, if you're not going to church, you don't have anything going on, pop in and catch the kid. I'm going to throw that link up tomorrow somewhere in that 10 o'clock neighborhood. I got to set the little stream up, but I'm going to throw that link up. Don't click the link until 11 o'clock. If you click it before, I don't think it's really going to take you anywhere per se. The link doesn't really work, I don't think, until I'm live, if that makes sense. I haven't clicked the link. Every time I click one of those links, it asks me to sign in, so I just give up. But I think what I was told is that the links really don't work until the stream is active. So I'm going to put the link out there. And then once you, like, if you look, you just happen to see, oh, it's 11:07. Click the link. I'm live. Come check me out, right? I'll be on for roughly 30 minutes or so. So if you catch me, you see the link anywhere between 11 and about 11:35, click it. I'm probably talking on Bleacher Report about this team, the draft, and what I thought about it, and what's next for the Commanders. You catch that link anywhere after 11:35, good chance I'm not on there anymore. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank everyone for joining me. I'm so excited about the draft, and I think most of you are as well. You feel really good about what has been done. I think I'm going to put out, I don't even know if I need to put out an extensive, draft video breaking down the prospects. I may still do it. Normally, that's what I do, but I've talked so much about these prospects over the last, 2 days or so that I don't even know if that's necessary, but I may still put together a comprehensive video kind of really detailing and breaking down each of these prospects, pros, cons, comp, that sort of thing. That's what I normally do. I may still do it. If that's the case, it'll be sometime Monday or Tuesday, if that's the direction I decide to go in. If not, we'll just keep it pushing, right? But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, if you're not doing anything tomorrow, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, I'll be on Bleacher Report talking about the Commanders, their draft, what my grade is, what I thought about everything, and then, what is the next moves for the Commanders as we proceed into the mini camps and OTAs heading towards training camp, right? So anyway, Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. I think it's double up. Might be a triple up. I think it's actually a triple up, but I deserve this. I deserve this. I deserve this. Don't forget to sign off, Lou. Trust me, I will never forget to do it again, because I've done it before in the past where I didn't sign off, but never to that extent where the mic was hot. Like, what if me and my wife decided to have relations down on the couch? What I mean, that could have been disastrous, right? Anything could have happened. I'm so glad that it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I literally, went, watched something and fell asleep. But don't worry. I'm going to make sure the stream is over this time. You don't have to worry, right? Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Cheers to the Commanders and a dynamic draft, the first of many to come from Adam Peters and crew. Cheers. And hopefully we'll be talking about a successful offseason that culminates in winning when the games start to matter. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Big Money Sonny writes, wait. You didn't sign off and the mic was hit. Give me the 4 quick 111. So yeah, last night did a stream similar to this one. We were recapping day 2 and finished up the stream, and I closed out the stream, like the screen or whatever, turned my camera off completely, but did not close out the stream. So my mic was still active. It was a hot mic. You could hear everything going on in my background. So I had no idea, right? The stream was roughly about a 2-hour stream last night. And when I ultimately got back to the mic, when my wife realized I was still live, the stream had been going for like 4 hours and 20 minutes or so. So essentially my mic was hot for roughly 2 hours and some change. And so people were DMing me on Twitter or X. They were hitting me up, and I had no clue. I'm not on social media after I get off the stream that late at night. I'm not on my phone. I'm unwinding. I'm relaxing. I'm getting ready to set myself up to go to bed or whatnot. So I didn't check my phone at all. So all these people hit me up. I had no clue. And so I told everybody I was going to watch Adam Peters' press conference. Same thing I'm going to do now. I'm pretty sure he had another one tonight to wrap up the draft. So I'm going to check that out. And then I watched Dave Chappelle. It was a mashup of some Dave Chappelle clips on YouTube. And it was some ones that I had never seen before. And so people were listening, and it was like an hour and 49 minutes worth of Dave Chappelle material. So I ended up falling asleep at probably like the 37-minute mark of that. And it just kept running. And so people were listening to Dave Chappelle, and it was crazy. If you go back, I deleted it now. My wife's like, yo, get it off because, you could get copyright for Dave Chappelle's material being in there, which was accidental. So I went, as I was just going to leave it. Nothing happened in there. But my wife's like, you should probably get rid of it. You might get copyrighted. And I was like, you're right. I didn't even think about it that way. So I edited it out and I took it out. But you could hear the Dave Chappelle stand up in the background, and people were like, yo, they were actually, quoting the lines, and they were like, yo, yeah, this is the part when he's about to say this. And I was like, yo, it was 400 people. So last night, the stream, I think when I finished, had like 900 people. And somehow 440 people were still watching for 2 hours after I got off, which was insane, and my wife's like, yo, you're still live. I fell asleep on the couch next to my wife. She woke up like, let's go upstairs, get in bed. We get upstairs, we turn everything off, we get into bed, and I'm about to shut my eyes, and she's like, babe, you're still live. I'm like, what are you talking about? No way. No, you're still live. I'm looking at it right now. You're still live. So I raced downstairs and I end the stream, and there's still people in the comment section commenting and talking. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm so glad I didn't do anything or say anything that I wasn't supposed to say. I mean, that's not who I am anyway, but still, when you think you're in the privacy of your own home, you say shit and you do things that, you wouldn't do on camera. And what if I would have done something, right? That could have been crazy. I worked so hard for all of this, and a simple mistake could, cost you everything. That's wild. If I was hiding something, I'd be nervous, but I'm not. So, but still, when you're in the privacy of your own home, anyway, I don't have to explain to you what could have gone wrong. That could have been very, very bad. Anyway. I digress. So just know that it was a dicey situation. It could have been a very dicey situation. But instead, it turned out to be a harmless. All it did was it re-emphasized and reinforced that I'm who I say I am. Okay. Nothing. I'm not a fraud. And I think that continued to hammer that point home. I'm not a fraud. And I feel good about that. Okay. But I'm not going to forget to sign off ever again. That's the last time that's going to happen. Jesus saves J316. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, look him up, LT. All right, I'll look him up. Taylor Owens. I'll look him up. Matter of fact, I'll write his name down on my pad so I don't forget to look him up. Taylor Owens. Again, did we sign him? I'm only looking him up if he's on the roster. If he's not on the roster, then I don't need to look Taylor Owens up because he might never, factor into what we're doing over here. If he's on this roster as an undrafted guy, I'll look him up. Sean Roberts. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? McCaffrey, the weakest link. I hate that pick. LOL. No, you can't say that. I mean, obviously, the weakest link of your draft should be the 7th round pick. If you have a 7th round pick, that's the weakest link. Javonte, I've said this already at the top of this show. 8 out of the 9 guys I expect to make this team, Javonte Jean-Baptiste is the one guy that I don't expect to make the football team. So by virtue of that in itself, he's the weakest link. So McCaffrey's going to make this team, and he may have an impact year 1. So you might not like the pick, but and look, I felt like there were other guys that they could have gone with, but they went with the guy that they liked and they felt like could have an impact and they thought, was a good fit for this team. And so I'm not mad at it, but I look at that position where we were and who was on the board. First guy comes to mind is Javon Baker. Big receiver, played at Alabama, went to UCF, transferred over there, was their guy. Now, I don't think he's a great route runner. No receiver coming out of UCF is a great route runner because they don't run routes really. But what he is a problem. And he's got size, and we could have used some of that. But we took Luke McCaffrey, and I'm fine with it. I don't have any issues. I wouldn't consider him a weak link. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Big Money Sonny writes, bottom line is that you didn't have relations. Miss T wasn't happy this morning. No, we didn't have relations. And I'm so glad that we didn't. At least not downstairs. Because that would have been really bad, And I'm telling you, the fact that 440 people were still alive, they were waiting for something. You couldn't have just been because you can watch Dave Chappelle at your own house. They weren't sticking around because they could hear Dave Chappelle in the background. They were sticking around because they were like, hey, and I don't think any of them had any ill will towards me. A lot of them was like, yo, somebody get at him, get him to turn this shit off, right? We don't want him to get caught slipping. But, deep down inside, we're humans. They were all kind of waiting to see if there was going to be a wreck here, right? Car crash. Nobody ever wants to see somebody get hurt, but you're not turning down an opportunity to see a car crash, right? And they are all those 400 people stuck around to see if there was going to be a car wreck. So I'm just glad that there was no wreck, I'm just glad that there was no car wreck. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're not doing anything, catch me tomorrow, 11 a.m. on Bleacher Report. Otherwise, more likely than not, I will see you guys on Monday. Soak up all of the draft content. You're going to have it all over the place, various spots. People are really lauding and praising Washington's draft. So just soak all of that in. We don't get this a lot. So, take it all in. Take it in stride. So I'll see you guys next time. Take care. God bless. And good night. Welcome to the family. All 9 selections of the 2024 NFL Draft. Love it. Love it. All right, I called a super before I got out of here. You just got it in, bro. I was about to hit. Look, I'm anxious to hit the button now, right? I'm anxious to hit it after what happened yesterday. I was about to hit that puppy, and I saw the super chat. So you got in here. JD Sports Talk, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JD Sports Talk writes, give me realistic expectations for Daniels. Would you be surprised if he turns into CJ Stroud in his rookie season? He has weapons. No, I wouldn't be shocked if he turned into CJ Stroud this year. But what you have to understand is, and don't put those expectations on him, because what CJ Stroud did last year was one of the greatest rookie seasons from an NFL quarterback we've ever seen. it was even better than what Robert Griffin III did. Understand that while Robert ran for way more yards than CJ Stroud did, and Robert threw for 3,200 yards and I think 20 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And it's not like CJ Stroud threw for 35 touchdown passes or something crazy like that. I think he threw for 23 touchdowns. I'm going to look up his numbers. It's how he did it, how effective he was, and had to have it moments. He went toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow and outdueled him in Cincinnati. Like what he was able to do last year, that Buccaneers game and the two games that stuck out like a sore thumb, the Buccaneers game in Houston and the Bengals game in Cincinnati when the Bengals were warming up, when they were getting hot. And he went in there and cooled their ass off. And in both of those games, his best was required to outscore the opposition because the defense wasn't hitting on shit. And he went out and did it, right? Let's look up his numbers from last year. CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, 4,000 yards in his rookie season. First of all, that's asinine. But the thing that jumped out at me, he led the NFL. I want to say he led the NFL in either completion percentage or yards per attempt. One of these crazy stats. Let me dig in, right? Let me see which one it was. He led the league in something that he's not supposed to lead the league in as a rookie. You just don't see the shit happen. So it wasn't completion percentage. He was at 64%. That's not going to lead the league. But that's a great percentage for a rookie, by the way. 64% completion percentage. 4,108 yards passing. 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Average per attempt was 8.2 yards. He averaged 274 yards per game. I think that was what it was. How many yards he averaged per game. He led the league in that, which is crazy for a rookie quarterback again. Had 100 passer rating on the season. I mean, you just don't see those kind of statistics from a rookie quarterback. So, let's see. See all stats for him. Yeah, he only had 167 yards rushing. He had 3 touchdowns there too. The bottom line is what he was able to do was phenomenal. And you can't expect. I want to go to those games in particular because those were the 2 games that I thought he announced to the league like, yo, I'm a problem, right? So I'm going to go to those 2 games in particular because those were games where his defense failed him and he had to overcome, and he did. The Buccaneers game. So, and it was in consecutive weeks, mind you, right? So the Cincinnati game was on the road at Cincinnati. And I think this was at a time when Cincinnati had won like 3 in a row, including going on the road and beating San Francisco. So they were getting hot with the Bengals. And they go in there and they win 30-27. He goes 23 of 39 for 356, a touchdown and an interception in that game. 356 on the road to outduel Joe Burrow in that game. And then the Tampa game was just insane. It was pure craziness because I had Tampa Bay in that game and I needed it to have a chance to win the pool that week. And he broke my back. I felt like Mike Tyson. I broke my back. He broke my back, literally. 30 of 42 for 470. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He was insane in that game. Almost a perfect passer rating, 147.8. I don't know. And then he had a couple more games down the road, a 384 game in there, a 336, 304. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games of over 300 yards passing. I mean, that's how you get to over 4,000. We haven't had a 4,000 yard We didn't have a 4,000-yard passer until Brad Johnson, I think, did it, and then Kirk Cousins, and Brad like barely got over like 4,000 yards, and then Kirk smashed it in 2015, and then I think he might have did it again in 16 as well. Probably did it in 17 too, but we've never had a quarterback in Washington's history throw for over 30 touchdown passes. I think I keep saying that, and I think Sonny Jurgensen might have done it, or Sammy Ball. One of those oldie but goodies did it. But in the modern NFL, I don't think anybody's done it for us, which goes to show you just how bad the quarterbacking has been. Because 30 touchdowns, while it's not chump change, 30 touchdown passes is not like this robust, crazy number. It's a lot, though. Like, don't get it twisted. It's not something you do very easily. But if you got competent quarterback play, Derek Carr's thrown 30 touchdown passes in a season, is my guess. Let me check. I'm talking out the side of my neck right now, and I might get to Derek Carr, and the most touchdown passes he had in a season is 28. But I use Derek Carr as an example because he's like a middle of the road quarterback to me. He's a solid NFL starting quarterback. So let me see. Yeah, I say that he only did it once though. He only did it one time, and that was back in 2015. He threw for 32 touchdown passes. Let me check Kirk because he's in that same range with him. And then I want to check Ryan Tannehill. If Tannehill's done it, anybody can do it. Shit. Y'all done sent me down a rabbit hole. Shame on y'all. Shame on y'all. Yeah, Kirk's done it multiple times. Never did it in Washington, obviously, because we've never had a guy throw for over 30. He came close in 2015 with 29 touchdowns. And like I said, in 15, 16, and 17, he eclipsed 4,000 yards, including in 16, which was the best year he had. He had almost 5,000 yards passing, 4,917. I wanted him to get to 5,000. I remember that. He didn't. He fell short. But he's had seasons where he's had 30, 35, and 33 touchdown passes in his career, all with Minnesota, obviously. So, and he was well on his way to doing it again in 2023 before he got injured. So, let me check Ryan Tannehill, and this is the last one, I promise. And then I'm gonna get off. I'm like a dog chasing a bone right now. I swear I'm gonna bury the bone, and we can get back to business. Even Ryan Tannehill has a 30 touchdown pass season. He's 33 in 2020. All right. So if Ryan Tannehill can do the shit, you can throw for 30. And we've never had a guy in the modern, day. Let's just call it the Super Bowl era. We've never had a guy in the Super Bowl era throw for 30 touchdown passes. Are you kidding me? That's how bad the quarterback play has been here. So to bring it full circle, because I know I went all over the place just now. Yes, he can have a CJ Stroud season, but don't go into the season expecting that. Okay. Yes, he has weapons here, this, that, and the third. But what CJ Stroud did last year is not normal. Okay. It's an anomaly what he did. 23 over 5, over 4,000 yards passing, passer rating over 100, 64% completion percentage. It's just not common. And he led the league in yards per game because at one point, Sam Howell was leading the NFL in that statistical category. Yards and because he had the most attempts too, right? But you don't see that from a rookie. So keep that in mind as well. Jesus Saves J316. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Yes, he is 225K. Okay, I'll check him out. If we signed him, I'll check him out. John Perez. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. JP writes, Lou, this might be the best draft we've had in a very long time. I'd agree with that. And again, we don't know if it's going to end up being good. It just feels good in the moment. But I can honestly say that there were a couple of times where I was beside myself, where I can't believe we got this guy. You know, that it rarely does it happen for me, where I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we got this guy. And there's no Snyder around to screw up Daniel's development. Hashtag Chef P for president. That's the most important thing in all of this, is that, you know, there's still so many fans that suffer from PTSD with this organization, and I get it. And you have every reason to doubt that any of this is going to translate into success. And I would be right there with you if this were the same old, but it's not. And the most important part of all of this is that we're under new management. Like, there's people are waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, oh, okay, we had strong free agency, but trust me, something's about to go wrong. There's some trouble waiting for us around the corner. No, it's not. It's not. And I keep telling people it's okay to feel good and to have positive vibes, because for so long you were scared to celebrate anything because you knew there was an allegation or a charge, or there was something waiting for us around the corner, some treacherous outcome, right? That's no longer the case. You don't have to worry about that black cloud. It doesn't hover over, you know, Commander's Park anymore. We don't have a black cloud over this organization anymore. This draft was phenomenal. I enjoyed it. And this feels like the beginning of something potentially special. If they got the quarterback right, this will set the foundation. I remember saying this maybe last year before last. If they get it right, you know, and I felt like if we got it right with Sam, right, this is a chance to set the foundation. Because we traded, that was the year when we traded. That was the draft, 2022. When we traded back with New Orleans and we got Jahan, and that pick netted us, you know, Brian Robinson and Sam Howell ultimately, and Cole Turner. And we said that has a chance to be the foundational draft right there. Like, that trade has a chance to be the foundational piece that we look back on. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. Not here, at least. But this draft has a chance to be. This draft has a chance to be. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, if you're not doing anything tomorrow, 11 o'clock a.m. East Time, I'm on Bleacher Report. I'll see you there. If not, I'll see you on the other side of the weekend. God bless. Good night.